Thank you for your patience. We'll get started in just a few moments.
Okay, so I'll just go to my super.
Yes, right.
So we should don't give it's just that's general. So should we freeze that?
We're going to start with public comment. Jill Gora. Jill Gora. Okay. Just in time there. Okay. Pat Hom, Kay Burton, Corey Mera, Bert Lindsay, Rupert Lindley, and Steve Victor. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Pat Hom. I live at 1340 Tourmaline Street, 92109, and I am the president of Friends of Pacific Beach Secondary Schools, and I'm here on behalf of Mission Bay High School regarding the field that we do not have. I'm just here to give you some history. In 2003, Friends of Pacific Beach Secondary Schools fundraised to help repair and build a new field at Mission Bay High School. We raised $25,000 through a grant from the Lauren Foundation specifically for the purpose of funding a new press box. In 2005, a district study was made at Mission Bay regarding the needs of our field. It was determined by San Diego Unified School District that Mission Bay was in great need of a new field with a stadium and a press box. At that time, we were pretty excited as parents, and we continued to fundraise. However, none of this came to fruition. We have no field, and we have no press box. If you can look at those photographs that I've just passed around, you will see what our field looked like on the day of homecoming this year. That is our press box. As you can see, it is a scissor lift. It's quite unsafe. Our field is unsafe. And as you can see, the visitors sit quite close to the Mission Bay High students. We have one set of bleachers on one side of the field. I would love for any one of you to put on a pair of tennis shoes, come on down to Mission Bay and take a run on our field and do some sprints, and you will see what I'm talking about. The other issue is that in 2009, we had members of the board, John DeBeck came down, and we had city planners come in and talk to us about revamping our field with Prop S funds. And we were going to meet over the summer to discuss the game plan. That never happened. We never had meetings over the summer. So the Prop M funds that were raised to fix up our field and the Prop S funds that were meant to be designated to our field have never come to Mission Bay. Friends of Pacific Beach Secondary Schools wisely hung on to that $10,000 we have left. We gave $15,000 to the project to pay for the architectural fees for the press box. I can't tell you where that money is today. However, you have it. We will gladly write for grants, fundraise, do whatever you need us to do to get this project done if we can get some guarantees from the board that this will happen for Mission Bay High School. We are in need, and we need your help, and we're bringing this to your attention because we do not wish to wait any longer. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cade Burton. I live at 4662 Pendleton Street, 92109. First, I'd like to start off by thanking the board members for allowing me to come to speak today. And to tell you the truth, I've been playing football for Mission Bay since my freshman year. I actually moved here from Ridgecrest, California, so before I even got to see Mission Bay High football field, I went to La Jolla and looked at what La Jolla had to offer. La Jolla has a turf field, rubber track, a stadium, stands on both sides, a press box, and lights. Now, yes, all that stuff may have been donated, but why don't we deserve that? And then, as I went down to Mission Bay to see the school that I was going to, I looked at the field, looked at the condition of it, looked at the track, and I was sadly disappointed. So, I didn't really understand the condition of the field just by looking at it until I actually had the opportunity to play on it. The condition of the field is far from good. There are mud holes, divots, potholes everywhere. One of my friends, Leandre, he used to play for us until he had to transfer. Was practicing one day this is our game field. Was practicing one day and went down to make a tackle and rolled his ankle and his knee. Tore ligaments in his knee, had to get reconstructive surgery, and it put him out for the entire season, and then he was actually out for some of the next season. Then the other day, even injuries that are not that big, the other day, I was going down for another tackling drill that my coach set up for me. I broke down, and when I broke down, I slipped in a mud hole, and the mud hole actually happened to be about 3 or 4 inches deep. Rolled my ankle and then got hit. Not only having kids roll their ankles on a game field, if a kid does this during a game, not only will they have a hurt knee or a hurt ankle, it also puts them in more danger of getting hit harder and can cause head injuries, and which everybody knows is just a bad thing all around. Not having lights on the field makes it harder for parents to come and see their children play because, as we all know, parents work late hours sometimes. And putting stands on one side of the field for both visiting and away teams makes it basically a disaster waiting to happen. That's asking for something to happen because we all know students are passionate about supporting their football teams. Also, having this type of field stereotypes Mission Bay as a poor, broken down school, and it directly reflects on the players and puts the players in this stereotype as well, in which we know we're not all like that. When my coach first told me that I was actually going to get to play on a brand new field with turf, lights, new stadium, road track, I was excited to hear the news. Then finally, he told me one day, or he told the team one day, that we wouldn't be getting this field or stadium until 2010. So I thought to myself, what makes us any different than any other school? What is it that makes Mission Bay any less different than any other school? And so when I'm leaving,
Good evening, board members. My name's Corey Mira. I live at 3409 Yosemite Street in San Diego 92109. And as you know, our group is from Mission Bay High, and we are in the Pacific Beach cluster. And in our cluster, the median home price is $800,000. But Mission Bay High School is one of the oldest and most antiquated campuses in San Diego Unified. I've had the opportunity to travel to the other schools within the district now that my son is at Mission Bay, and I actually am a graduate from Mission Bay from 1981, and I was actually surprised to notice that really not much has changed since I was there. And not one improvement has been made to the field other than the fact that restrooms were added, but that's because there never were any. And we did get new goalposts, but the entire district received these because the prior ones were unsafe. So really, in essence, we have not received any improvements whatsoever to this field. So like Kate Burton said, we were very excited to hear that with Prop S funds, we were going to be getting our new track and field in the winter of 2010. And about a month ago at a football booster meeting, we were informed that it was pushed to 2015 due to problems with the bond issues and then the new schoolbrary that the board has unanimously voted to put $20 million into. And we in Mission Bay do not agree with this, and we hope that after you hear all of our speakers, you too will understand the urgency of the situation. Our field is simply unsafe for another year, let alone another 6 years to play on. And like Pat said, come down, run on this field, and you'll be hearing about injuries that have been sustained. It's just another accident and huge lawsuit waiting to happen, because it's not just our kids at Mission Bay, it's all the kids that come and play at our field at Mission Bay. And we just hope that you understand and agree to the urgency of this situation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brett Lindley, and I live at 3445 Yosemite Street. I am a freshman at Mission Bay, and I'm junior varsity on the cross-country team. I just like to say that our dirt track is really unsafe for us to practice on. And then once track comes around, we can't even use it because it doesn't meet CIF standards. And just practicing on it, it's really not at all different than running our cross-country races, which take place on dirt, and it's just not very safe. And I just think it's really important for runners to be safe, and having a good track should be a requirement for San Diego City High School. So on behalf of all of us runners at Mission Bay, I'd like to ask you that funds be allocated to install a composite track at our school. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. My name is Stephen Victor. I live at 3838 Kendall Street in Pacific Beach. I do not have an affiliation with the football team at Mission Bay. I have daughters that play basketball there. But I do feel very strongly about issues related to the diversion of Prop S funds from the football field at Mission Bay. I think that you should strongly consider the fact that the economics of diverting these funds is actually going to cost the board far more in liability issues and other issues that I'm going to enumerate for you. First of all, the board has a duty to remedy the dangerous condition that exists at the field. There's a likelihood of injury occurring, there's a probable seriousness of injury occurring, and you have the burden of reducing the risk at this field. You've heard several people invite you to come down and look at this field. I personally have walked it several times this season, and it is a lawsuit. And as a plaintiff's lawyer, it's a lawsuit that I would take if it came my way. Now, you have the ability to change this dangerous condition because you have Prop S funds that are available and being diverted from the school. And the policy of the law governing the condition of public facilities is that you have a degree of control over the risk that's creating the dangerous condition. This condition has existed for a long time, and the board is on notice that if somebody gets injured seriously, as these kids have told you today, we have a coach who fell out of the press box who has a workers' comp claim. This is going to cost more than just building the field at Mission Bay. The California law has long imposed on school authorities the duty at all times to supervise the conduct of children on school grounds and enforce rules and regulations necessary to their protection. The lack of supervision or ineffective supervision by maintaining a dangerous condition constitutes a lack of ordinary care on the part of those responsible for the student welfare. I say this to you because I'm concerned. There is a lack of funds all around the board here, but Mission Bay is the poor stepchild to numerous other schools in this district that have turf fields, that have lighted fields, that have snack bars and other facilities. The Tort Claims Act in California, Government Code Section 835, which deals with public entities provides a public entity is liable for injury caused by a dangerous condition of its property if the plaintiff establishes the property was in a dangerous condition at the time of the injury. You are on notice. We have a dangerous condition there. The injury was proximately caused by the dangerous condition. Our football coach can give you legions of injuries that have occurred, and the dangerous condition created a foreseeable risk of the kinds of injury which occur. So, we have a facility that is under the control of employees of public entities. The public. Does that mean I'm done?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Can I have about 30 seconds more?
No, you can just give me your last sentence, but that's it.
Okay. My last sentence is this. I think out of economics, in fairness, you also ought to consider Title IX violations because this field is unsuitable and girls are required to practice on separate and unequal fields. And there's going to be not only injury lawsuits eventually, Title IX lawsuits with the attorney's fees and costs that accrue. The expense to the school district, which it can ill afford, is going to be far more than what it's going to take to use the funds from Prop S. Thank you.
Okay, Stephen Victor, is that you? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, you didn't hear your name. Okay. Francine Maxwell, followed by Jim Bonador, followed by Shannon Freesilone. I hope that's right, maybe.
My name is Francine Maxwell. I'm a parent of a senior at Morris, and what you're receiving now is a flyer of a fabulous event that just happened at Morris by a dynamic teacher named Mrs. Helen Green. She hosted on her own time, on her own dime, with her own budget, a meeting for parents for standing room only. There were parents and students standing down the ramp on this particular morning to learn about how they can improve their CSTs, learn about the gap of AYP, and learn about API. Mrs. Green did this with the help of some of her staff members at Morris, counselors of Gear Up, and we had a special counselor come over and share some things with SCPA. I bring this to your attention, board, because I want you to know of some of the fabulous things that's going on the Morris campus. On another note, I'd like you also to know that the fact that you have staff members that are highly trained and make a lot of money in the data director department. So I don't know if they need to be having a personal invitation to come to Morris, but I have a problem that there's teachers that are on a paid leadership team that doesn't have stakeholders on it, still getting paid overtime to teach other teachers how to do data director. They themselves have not been fully trained with data director, but they're getting paid overtime to teach other teachers. That's not a wise decision, I feel. So I need this board to audit that. I also need to look at the board to look at the staff that is being used over and over with overtime. This district has highly skilled people that I guess they need an invitation. So let me just invite everybody to come to Morris High School and train my staff, my classifieds. Just come train everybody because the expertise is here over on Normal Street. I shouldn't be paying people as a taxpayer. I shouldn't be paying the same people over and over to do things that a skilled person here from Normal Street can come and do it one time for the entire staff. I have a problem. All money isn't good money. And yes, our grant for the leadership is being given to us. We have someone that comes from UCLA, a doctor, but even the doctor doesn't understand how important it is to have all stakeholders on that leadership team. My paid parent liaison cannot bring to the table what an actual parent and their day-to-day dealings with Morris can bring. So I ask that this board send an informational letter and have the school explain to you why these teachers are being paid overtime, also being paid to sit on a leadership team when we have highly paid, highly skilled staff members here that can come out to Morris and do the training themselves. Thank you.
President Jackson, members of the board, I am still Jim Vonador. I do still live in City Heights, which is still America's finest community. Today's topic is the census. 4.5 months from now, on the 1st of April of next year, the United States government will conduct the 23rd census. The census, we hope, will count every single man, woman, and child who lives in the United States on that date. Every one. There's a simple reason for why we should want that, all of us. It's called greed. The government of the United States issues very large parts of its money, and the state of California issues substantial parts of its money based on population, the numbers of persons in a census tract or a city or a school district or a county, and in the case of the federal government, in states and districts. Money, ladies and gentlemen, is the motivation for the census. Everyone should be counted, whether native-born or naturalized, whether here legally or not, of every ethnic group, of every race, religion, language, and creed and color should be in the census. Every single one. The request to you today is simply, please ask the superintendent to begin now laying out a strategy for how you will notify the families of your students, probably not until mid-March. St. Patrick's Day would be a good day to do that, but some way to notify them so that they understand what is involved, and to the degree we can induce them to do so, be eager, as we say in the Baptist Church in the South, stand up and be counted. This is crucially important. I urge you to cooperate with us in this. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And we'll add something. We'll add something. Right. Okay. I'm sorry, Shannon. This is our last speaker. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shannon Frizzoloni. I'm with Abraham Lowe Self-Help Systems. We're at 105 West Adams Street in Chicago, Illinois, 60603. You're being given a packet right now for our Power to Change program. We were recently given an endowment to offer the program free of charge to students in San Diego County. We're a peer-led conflict resolution program that was established 5 years ago. We started out in the Chicago Public Schools, and within 5 years, we're now in 80 schools, and we have well over 100 groups. We have recently, as you've probably heard about the violence in Chicago, we've recently paired with the Violence Initiative in Chicago, and we're reaching out. As part of that endowment, we were given money to offer the program to San Diego County. The program's information is in that packet, along with the state standards of California that we fulfill in the emotional learning component, as well as evaluations to the program. The program has been known to reduce truancy, detention referral, and violence in the school system. Our program is a good adjunct to the Tend to Succeed program, as well as to the Safe Passages program. And it's not in competition. It's a program that's peer-led, where students talk about issues of violence that are going on in and around their community, and how to deal with that, how to deal with those issues on a peer-led level. As part of that endowment, we can offer the program to San Diego students within as many schools as San Diego would like, with all materials and training being paid for through that endowment. It's a fee-for-service program that's run throughout the country, and the program is initially $2,500 per school. So that's a lot of money that we were given. The money was given to us through someone who was a member of our adult programming, who died and left the money to our office in Chicago to be used in San Diego County. So I encourage you to look through the material. My contact information is in there, and we're really excited about this money and the opportunity for San Diego schools and to reach many, many students at a cost that's free to you. And lastly, I'll just say that the power of our program is the peer-to-peer led, and we've had enormous success in Chicago and Chicago Public Schools, as well as at schools throughout the country. So I look forward to talking to you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to comment on it. Don't go away. I hear the offer. What I don't have is a staff response, and we have a counseling and guidance department I think really should interface with this person, and that somehow we should get some kind of report back about how it might be implemented if the board then did approve it. The issue is, for me, is that the viability of your offer sounds very nice, and certainly there's a lot of information that I haven't read that I will have to read. But I do believe there should be a vetting process that the board should engage in on how these things come forward. And I would only say that I'd like to have a report back on this program.
Mr. DeBeck and members of the board, what I would suggest is that I take a look at this. I haven't seen the proposal. This is the first I've heard of it tonight. And work with our Race and Human Relations Department, which is in District Relations, and Jean Shahid and I will take a look at it and bring back a report about how we can integrate it into some of the programs that we already had. The speaker mentioned Tend to Succeed, but we've got several other programs. So let me take it and work with our Race and Human Relations Department and get a report back to you.
I personally think that's a good idea, but I think the Race Human Relations is not the only place where this might have an impact. And so I think that those that are in counseling and guidance should certainly be involved in a discussion, because it sounds to me like this is a preventative program, not a Race Human Relations program.
Right, and comments taken, and we'll make sure to coordinate that with everybody involved.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
We'll call the meeting to order at this time. The Air Force JROTC Color Guard from Scripps Ranch will now present the colors. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Forward. Hop. Inward. March. Outward. Face. Praise and colors.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Forward. March.
Please be seated. Good afternoon. I'm Sheila Jackson.
Thank you, Pat.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheila Jackson, President of the Board. I would like to welcome all present today and call the November 10th, 2009 regular meeting to order with all board members present. We hope the discussions and decisions that you observe today will give you a better understanding and appreciation of the important part you play in setting the course of Education Unified School District. Agendas for today's meeting are available at both entryways to the auditorium, at the information desk located near the press table, and on the internet at www.sandy.net. In addition to the broadcast of our meeting on ITV Channel 16 and the live webcast, we are also using Board Docs, the web-based program to enhance governance, reduce the amount of paper we generate, and provide for better communication with the public. The board requested those individuals with pagers and cell phones please turn them off or place them in a silent mode while you're in the auditorium, and that during the meeting, please enter and exit the auditorium by using the door at the back or to my left in front of the press table. The board asks your cooperation complying with the fire codes, which does not allow standing in the back of the room or in the aisles. We ask that everyone please be seated. The board welcomes your comments in writing and during public testimony. Public testimony request forms are located on the tables to my right, inside the front and back entrances to the auditorium. The board asks that the speakers focus their comments on issues and not on individuals. Acceptance of public testimony requests will be closed as each agenda item is called and our discussion begins. Board members and the superintendent are interested in your comments, and the staff will be responding to the issues we hear here today. If you wish to address the board today and your name is not on the blue sheet and you have not already submitted a request for public testimony form, please complete the form and submit it to Ms. Ward. Speakers on agenda items will be called to speak during the discussion of the agenda item. Agenda item testimony is limited to a maximum of 20 minutes per consent and or action item, allowing for a maximum of 10 minutes per opposing viewpoints and a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. No deferral time is allowed. Non-agenda testimony was heard at 5 p.m. and will be heard again at the end of the meeting. Testimony is limited to a maximum of 15 minutes per item and 3 minutes per speaker. No deferral time is allowed. The board operates under Robert's Rules of Order, which confer upon the governing body and audience participation, proceeding in a civil and courteous manner. At this time, the ASB presidents will introduce themselves and tell us a bit about yourself and what's going on at your schools, both academically and socially.
They're singing and dancing at SCPA, but there's other things you can tell.
Hi, my name's Vincent Gumina, ASB president of La Jolla High School, president of the student council here. Last Saturday was our first, hopefully annual ASB beach cleanup, and we held it in Ocean Beach, and we got a lot of participants, so that went well. Winter sport tryouts have started this week, and fall playoffs are in progress right now as well. And our science department is working with the auto shop department, and they're working on creating an electric car with the money that the science department got from grants. And we have a canned food drive planned for the month of December. And our avid students are taking a college tour to Northern California, second semester, to visit schools up north like Berkeley and Stanford and Santa Barbara. And lastly, I would like to thank all the veterans, including Mrs. Jackson and Mr. Koba, for all they've done for this country. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Monique Garcia, and I attend the San Diego School of Creative and Performing Arts. I am the ASB president for the 2009 to 2000 school year. Currently, we are working on our homecoming preparations. Since we don't have sports, our homecoming is a little bit later than most schools. But we have a spirit week and a homecoming dance all next week. We're also working on our main stage, which is Yellow Boat. It'll be opening in December 1st, and it'll run throughout the month. We're also doing a showcase. It's called Arts and Activism, and it's coinciding with Yellow Boat, and it opens on the same days as well. We have recently opened an after-school tutoring program that is available for middle school and high school students as well every day in every academic subject that we offer at school. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you both for being here this evening, and I hope that you will participate actively in discussions. Dr. Evans, please introduce our student presentation this evening, please.
Okay, today we're going to have a presentation from Mira Mesa High School. I don't believe the principal is here, but I'll just say a few words. I know yesterday we heard from a couple of students from Mira Mesa High School who eloquently spoke about the San Diego State situation. The superintendent and I were in a meeting with the Mira Mesa cluster last night at Mira Mesa High School, a very enthusiastic group of parents supporting the schools in Mira Mesa. There are a lot of activities going on there, so I'm sure it's very difficult for the principal to choose one particular group to represent the school. Whenever I've been there, there have been a lot of music, art, and other programs going on at the school. It's a very community-based school. I've talked with teachers there who actually grew up in Mira Mesa and graduated from Mira Mesa High School. So today, and even last weekend, there was a big competition there, which was a band competition with a few thousand students who were at Mira Mesa High School. I'm sure Ms. Nakamura Murrah was there. And so tonight we have the pleasure of hearing from the Mira Mesa High School Madrigals, and their director is Julie Suida. So if you bring your group forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren Manuel, and I am president of Mira Mesa High School Madrigals, and we will be singing two selections for you tonight. The first is called Lo How a Rose E'er Blooming by Michael Pretorius, and the second selection is Caroling, Caroling by Alfred Burt.
I think I'm going to change positions here. Dr. Evans.
What do you want to complain about?
But first, Dr. Evans, we would like to really compliment the students from Mira Mesa High School. Thank you very much. And I am down here for a reason. I'm down here to recognize some outstanding individuals as I present this year's Board President Scholarship Awards. And I'm going to ask Tricia Link from Mission Federal Credit Union. You can join me up here. And I'll call these individuals up and I'll read a short bio on them and we will present them with some things. People want to see my face, okay? I thought you saw it enough, but okay. Okay. I'm going to ask the people to come and stand right here as I read their bios when I call their names. Jillian Margaret Collins, could you please come and stand right here in front of the board? Thank you. Jillian has been a special ed Braille assistant at Bay Park Elementary for the past 6 years. And I didn't pick Bay Park particularly, so don't say it's rigged, okay. Jillian states that she has always wanted to be a teacher, but believes that she was chosen to teach visually impaired students. This job has taught her about life, patience, and resilience. I can read too, thanks. She believes that it has changed her for the better. She has been certified by the Library of Congress as a Braille transcriber and is also studying the MET, which is Math Braille Code. Jillian is currently attending night school at San Diego Mesa College, where she will receive her degree in 2014. Okay, please remain standing there. And next we have Shaniqua Thomas. Shaniqua was employed with the district since 2003 and is currently a special ed technician at Field Elementary. She attends San Diego Community College and will graduate in 2011. She is a single mother of 2 students who attend San Diego Unified Schools. Shaniqua is described by her co-workers as an independent, take-charge person who is able to communicate effectively with students she works with. Shaniqua believes that the career path she is on has already proven to be very rewarding, and this scholarship will help her be successful in both her life and career. So thank both of you ladies, and I have a presentation for both of you. In addition to those awards, we would have this plaque in the Board of Education office with the name of
Hi, I'm Tricia Link, representing Mission Federal Credit Union, and I just wanted to say we're thrilled to be here tonight to sponsor these 2 great scholarships. We started out as a teacher credit union, now open to everyone, but it's so fitting because both of these wonderful ladies are studying to be teachers, so we congratulate you tonight. I think I like it down there a little bit better. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I will now have the report of closed session actions and superintendent's information report. Mr. Koba.
Thank you, President Jackson. I have a few comments from the superintendent's report. I wanted to update the board and the public at large about the H1N1 vaccination. On Monday, the 9th of November, the district, in partnership with the San Diego County Public Health Services, hosted our first school-based H1N1 vaccine clinic at Horton Elementary. But due to the limited supply of vaccines, only Horton students are currently eligible to receive the vaccine. These are free, concurrent with parent consent. The vaccines are being dispensed by the county public health nurses and a county contracted vaccinator service from Rady's Children's Hospital. But our school district is partnered in the sense that our nurses are helping to assist with organizing the clinics and obtaining the parent permission. Additional clinics will be ongoing today, not only at Horton Child Development Center, but on Thursday at the Knox Elementary School. And as more vaccines become available, the district will work with the county to schedule additional clinics. The actual clinic schedule is fluid based on the availability of the vaccine and the coordination with the county health public services. So more to follow, but this is the first week and our first support within the district. Second topic is the California Distinguished Schools Program. I'm really thrilled about that. This past Wednesday, through the California Department of Education, we were notified that we have 23 elementary schools eligible to apply for this very distinguished recognition. These are all schools that have met the 2009 Adequate Yearly Progress as well as the 2009 Growth Academic Performance Index. And I really wanted to recognize them by just quickly reading them off. They include Barnard, Bay Park, Bird Rock, Bernie, Cadman, Chesterton, Crown Point, Curie, Dingman, Erickson, Field, Foster, Green, Jones, Loma Portal, Nye, Perry, Sandberg, Scripps, Sequoia, Vista Grande, and Wedgeworth. 19% of all of our elementary schools are eligible. The deadline is the 12th, is December, 12th month of the year, and I've sent a note out to all principals that are eligible to please sign up. I think it's a great opportunity. Third item, very quickly, is last Friday we had Principal for a Day in the district. It was, I think, a wonderful success. 203 business and community leaders were matched up. All but 5 of our K-12 schools participated. Also, the charter schools of the district were invited to participate, and 3 of them actually had shadows for that period of time. A great morning. I talked to a number of the shadows, and they hadn't been on campuses in quite a while, and either the teachers were younger, the kids were smarter, or they were just older. I'm not sure. All the above, quite frankly. But a great event, and they concluded with a luncheon with Barbara Lee Edwards from KFMB and Paul Bloom from KUSI actually hosting and then having a town hall meeting afterwards where the shadows got a chance to share their observations. So very positive experience for our leadership team and the community at large. And we tried to encourage, I think what Ms. Jackson and I have talked about is getting the business community involved. And we took some time to remind them of the importance of school, the crisis we're in, and how they could all help us out. And then lastly, I'd asked Daryl Legase, our Chief Information Technology Officer, to provide an extensive update to all of you on AT21. And I just call it out because it's a pretty conclusive document that it'll give you an update. And as Daryl and I have talked about the research, we want to invite you all on a field trip to be determined sometime in the near term out to one of these smart classrooms and kind of walk you through perhaps with a teacher in a class in progress. I know you've seen a little bit of this before, but I think it would really be neat to see what has transpired. We're coming up on the 10th month of the rollout, and a lot has happened in terms of training and installation of equipment. So that's all I have, President Jackson.
Thank you very much for that report. The next item is to adopt the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
The motion and second, please vote. Passes 5-0. The next we have the board consent agenda. These items can be done in one motion if they're so desired.
So moved.
Okay, can I have a second, please? Okay, there's no second. Then we'll take them separately. Okay, EO1, approve the minutes of regular meeting September 29, 2009. Special meetings October 6, 2009, October 13, 2009, October 20, 2009. Okay, it's a motion.
Second.
Okay. Please vote. The next item is 2010 membership renewal of the NSBA and the Council of Urban School Boards. Need a motion?
I move to approve.
Thank you. Can we have a second? Do I have to give it my gavel so I can second it? I second it. Okay. Discussion? Okay.
We've had this come up before when we've been in financial straits, and one of the main discussions has been the benefit of the belonging to the organization in terms of its value in interfacing with the government and the people that provide us funds. I have been involved in this discussion more than once, but I find that of the organizations that we participate in, that NSBA is the least sensitive to large urbans, even though they have a wing of their organization called CUBE that's designed to support large urbans. The institution as a whole, NSBA, is a representative and politically does less for large urbans and other memberships. So this year, I think I would probably say, in the interest of economy, that I would not support membership.
Yeah, actually, it's been also my experience. We have, another national organization that that exclusively represents the interests of national school boards or large urban districts. And I think we really have to be a little more exclusive this year. While advocacy is important, I'm not. These two particular organizations are not the vehicles that I personally want, and I, with all due respect to board members that support this, because I know it's difficult, but we can do a lot with $13,000.
Yeah, I've got my issue is not so much with the associations. It's just simply with the issue that we've instituted a spending freeze in the district, and I think we need to start sending a signal from the board that that we're going to live within our constraints as well moving forward. So I can't support this either.
I'd like to ask President Jackson if but I have a question on that in terms of because I know that CUBE, which is the Council of Urban Boards of Education, which pertains more to us as a subgroup of the National School Board Association, and what is or can be our connection with that in relation to being or not being a member of NSBA?
I'll speak to both of those issues, and certainly I understand the concerns that we address right now with our economics, both on the national level and locally. But part of my board member comments tonight was dealing with what is happening on a national level for us. While we are elected locally across this nation, we do need advocates in Washington, D.C. to advocate on our behalf. The amount of money that we're paying right now, certainly we want to set an example, but we need to be very clear. The mindset right now in Washington is not positive toward boards of education. If we don't have a voice there, then pretty soon we won't have any boards of education, period. The people that are advocating for us right now at Washington are these particular organizations, and sometimes we are invested in an organization and we don't need them to stand up and fight for us. They provide information and resources. There does come times when they are required to stand up and fight for us, and I can say right now to the board members and to the public that is exactly what is happening. So when it comes to the CUBE is a subset of NSBA, and CUBE members out of NSBA, so it's a subset for the larger urban districts, and it is separate in the speak, but you don't pay totally separate dues for the CUBE. We just left our Council of Great City Schools, where we pay a lot more than we pay for this particular membership here. But again, right now on the national level, we have more of a movement for having appointed boards of education. We also have a movement for things that are being put in place that does not provide time for the local people to respond. and giving that, and one item here that I'm going to share with you a little bit later is taking what should be coming to local schools and giving it to the state for the state to decide how those monies are spent. So if we are now going to say that we don't want to be part of these organizations because they represent too many organizations, or we feel that we don't have the funding, I think the long-term consequences have to be considered. And the long-term consequences may be that we do not have a voice that is educating the people who are elected or appointed to positions, how their decisions or their policies that they want to implement will affect local school boards and local leadership. So,
I'd like to comment.
Yes, you can comment.
Okay, I'd like to comment further on this one. Just wanted that clarification about the CUBE and the NSBA. But I do think that this is a very important organization, and it is focused on school boards and not just school districts. I take very seriously every single dollar that we are spending, but I'm also looking at it in terms of spending dollars that can potentially bring us more money to our district. Last year in January, I attended the NSBA conference in Washington, and I really had to carefully justify even the expense of going on that trip. At that time, there was the debate about the stimulus bill about 1 or 2 weeks into the administration. The trick in the stimulus bill was obviously in the fine print, and the fine print had to do with some of the flexibility and the funds that we were receiving. The special ed funds, for example, we ended up with 50% flexibility. At the time, it looked like some of the original bill, it was somewhere maybe around 5% flexibility that we were going to have in that fund. It involved talking with the Congress people in Washington about it, but it also involved talking with the leaders of NSBA to make sure that these important things were included in the stimulus bill. I think we need to have the San Diego is one of the largest districts in the nation, and we need to have a very strong voice on national policy and on state policy. And I think that Mr. Reinerson can also address this somewhat, but I think this is really crucially important at this particular time of budget crisis, that we not abandon our lobbying efforts.
President and members of the board, one of the questions that I would have about your consideration of this is the relationship between NSBA and CSBA. And by not being a member of NSBA, I would not want to jeopardize our membership in the California School Boards Association, which, as Mr. Evans has said, NSBA is an important organization in Washington and does help us on our lobbying there. But in Sacramento, we have a coalition of organizations that we work with very directly on the state budget, and CSBA is part of that. California Teachers Association is part of that. AXA, the Administrators Association, is part of that. And so that's very important. And so I don't know the answer to that question if the membership to NSBA is separate.
No, they're completely separate.
We pay separate dues for them.
Yes,
so you pay separate dues for that. But you know, for what it's worth, these organizations are important to us when we do go to Washington. When I pick up the phone and talk to the education aides for Congresswoman Davis, for our senators, one of the things they look at is what are these organizations saying? Not only what the Great City Schools says, but what does NSBA say? What does NEA say? All of those organizations weigh into those congressional offices. And we have nobody in Washington. We have one person in Sacramento. So it's these kind of networking and relationships that help get our voice heard, and that's who Congress is listening to, all of these organizations. So from my point of view, as an advocate for this district, these kind of organizations are important to us.
Yeah? Okay. Having been involved in all these organizations at one time or another, in fact, and also in an urban organization for the state of California called the California Urban Organization, which was merged later with CSBA. The issue is not whether or not you have advocates in Washington for education, but whether you have advocates in Washington for urban education. There's a tension between the Congress pressures. There are more people in NSBA that represent school districts under 20,000 kids than there are over 20,000 kids. And so as a result, when they go back there, their words are tempered by their major membership, which is the membership of NSBA is small school districts, and they're going to be lobbying and continue to lobby for public education, but not for the interests of urbans. When it comes time to weigh in on, for example, inner city kids, it is not well known, and I have been with CUBE, it is not well known that CUBE influences NSBA to lobby for the issues of urbans. And so the reason why we joined and had always joined with the great cities was the very fact that the great cities had as its message the needs of inner city kids, and they continue to lobby in a different way than those from NSBA. In a time like this, I think that the message that came out of great cities relative to the reauthorization of the bills and the impact we have on Title I and all the other can only be attributed to the work that was done by the Great Cities Lobbying Group, which is well known nationally. There is less well known lobbying done by NSBA, and they usually do it by bringing a bunch of board members in and having meetings with their own legislature. That doesn't happen with great cities, and I'm going to say it. If we want to leverage NSBA and CUBE to be more interested in what we care about, we're going to not join one year and show them that we really mean that we want to be represented. If we continue to just say, yes, let's do it, they're not going to pay attention to us.
Mrs. Nakamura?
Yeah, just as one symbol of this, when we were in Washington, D.C. with Council of Great City Schools, we were in a room with Secretary of Education Arne Duncan with about 75 people, and I got to talk to him personally. When it was NSBA, I was in a room with about 5,000 people, and there was no way I was going to talk with him personally. But furthermore, when I went to Council of Great City Schools, when our superintendent was invited to go speak with Arne Duncan, he was in a group of about 12, and he had a much more impact. And I hate to make decisions like this and choices, but I just feel that if it's, I agree with you on CSBA, but only because, as I've mentioned before, we don't have a corollary group in California that represents large urban school districts that is as powerful as Council of Great City Schools. So it's with great regret. I mean, I am sorry.
Well, it's okay. I mean, you can disagree, but at CUBE conference, when Artie Duncan came to our luncheon, it was not 5,000 people. We were there for FRN, and that's what FRN is to do. Right now, it is a very critical time, and certainly the people that advocate on behalf of school boards is NSBA. The CUBE part of it does look at the urban, but CSBA does the exact same thing, and that was why CSBA was upset, because they represent a large number of small districts, and when we go, people listen to San Diego. We're the second largest district in the state, with the 8th largest district in the nation, and we have yet to start leveraging that power. And we'll start, and then for some reason we'll want to pull back. And I'm saying now is not the time for us to pull back. We do have a strong presence there at the CUBE, and I even spoke at the last CUBE because of our presence and clout there at CUBE and NSBA. So certainly I think that as we look at how we are spending our money, especially in this economic crisis, and looking at decisions that are being made, and certainly, and I will share continually that the way the climate is right now in Washington, D.C., the climate is not supportive of elected boards. The climate is not selected of equalizing education across the nation. We need to have a strong voice there. Now, if this board decides that they don't want to be involved, and this board looks around and see legislation being put forward that insists that other people decide who board members are, then please remember this, because that's what they're for. Not only they're there for to make sure that when legislation comes out that they look at it to ensure that we're treated fairly across the board, they're also there to be our advocates. So with that, I'll just call for the vote, because we have other things that we need to take care of this evening.
Okay, well, there's a... Okay.
I call for the vote.
Well, I think that We have rounds. And you're saying there are no rounds.
I just called for the vote, and it fails 3-2, so it's okay.
All right.
The next item there is resolution to recognize November 9th through 12th as National School Psychology Week.
Move approval.
Okay. Any discussion? Please vote. The next item is operational matters reserved for the board. Information reports. Mr. DeBette, we'll start with you.
Yeah. Number one, and I think this is probably the most important thing that happened in the news today. We all know about the teenage drinking that caused the deaths and disaster in the community, but I want to compliment somebody that works for us that's done something substantial about that. His name is Ryan Flacco, and he's the coach at Claremont, and he was supported by his athletic director in forfeiting a game when some members of the team had joined together on a bus ride where there was alcohol served, so he just basically said, you don't play, we're forfeiting the game. I think he stood up for the principles that we all believe in, and that's to avoid teenage drinking. He may it was a hard decision, I'm sure, because a lot of people rely on the fact that their teams are playing, but I think he took the character issue as far as we could expect for a coach, and I want to compliment him and the athletic director who supported him at Claremont High School. They forfeited a game. They may have another opportunity to play La Jolla again, and I also want to say La Jolla could have raised hell, but they didn't, so I want to compliment them for being a party to the cancellation and the forfeiture of the game. But should they get a playoff, we'll see what happens, how well they do. The other thing I want to say is I really want to compliment the professionals' presentation by the Mission Bay High School people around the issue of their stadium. They have a number of issues there, not just safety, but they are major around the quality of that field. And while for years I've been calling for a long-term plan for the site, including we had at one time a chance for a swimming pool there, which may not go away. Even so, I think that the school deserves to be paid attention to on their issues that they brought forward about equity and safety for their children. So I want to compliment them, and they didn't come shouting at us. They came with a rational, straightforward approach, and I found that to be the case when I dealt with that community. So I want to compliment them on what they did there. So thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Barrera.
No, thank you, Mr. DeBeck, for the story about the Claremont coach. That's a great story. I just wanted to speak real quickly to the fact that San Diego Unified was the largest recipient in the country of any public agency in an allocation for clean renewable energy bonds. We received an allocation of up to $74 million in renewable energy bonds that could potentially finance the development of over 100 solar installations on our rooftops around the district. And I think that's fantastic work of the folks on our staff in partnership with the Clean Tech Coalition around San Diego, that we were ready with projects to go. We had a coalition of local folks that were ready to apply, and it's very exciting, the possibilities. I know that we have work to do now to figure out if we actually take advantage of these bonds and borrow money to follow through with these solar projects. What revenue stream will we tap into to be able to pay those bonds off? The idea, the potential is that we actually can pay the bonds off with savings to our energy bills, as a result of solar installation. But I know we still have work to do to figure that out. But just having the opportunity to move forward with these projects is really exciting, and I want to thank the staff for
and it's
your work
almost
on that.
a one-man band, so whoever does it has really been dedicated and hung in for a long time. I have to say that I was sold many years ago, and I have solar on my roof, 36 kWs, and it's paying off.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you. Mrs. Nakamura, please.
Yes. It's just been a really very busy week. We've had budget meetings with PTA executive leadership and some of the foundations, and I know the superintendent and the other members of staff have been going out and talking with people, and I want to emphasize the importance to folks as we go through this developing budget crisis that people show up. Please don't think that your voice is unimportant. We're going to be having a budget meeting here next week, but we're also going to be having one in each one of our sub-districts. And I don't know why my colleagues chose to let me go first or how that worked out, the four of you. But somehow I'm going to be the first person to it's going to be in my sub-district on the 19th at Sarah High School. And I have said repeatedly as I've talked with people about this, please don't underestimate the importance of showing up and your presence and talking with us and talking about the issues that are important to your community, to your school, to your child. So we want to hear your voice as that's starting, because it's important early in this budget process that your voice be heard. I also want to talk about the Principal for a Day, in which I was fortunate enough to be there, the aftermath. I think it's a terrible miscarriage of justice that board members, we are not allowed to be principal for a day. However, Mr. Barrera did point out that the damage we could do with 2 hours in that position would probably...
Thank God we're not allowed anywhere near.
Yeah, we're not allowed to do this.
It's a wise decision.
Yes, it was, well, possibly, but or maybe it would give us more empathy for what our principals face every day, which we could certainly use. Regarding, what was I going to, the next one? Oh, the other thing is I'd like to bring it to the board's attention in a very formal way, although we've sort of discussed it informally, perhaps in violation of the Brown Act, which is about brown bagging. The board there was an article in the newspaper about budget cuts and with regard to catering on the Board of Education and that sort of thing, and I want to make it very clear that I believe that was an oversight and misunderstanding from on behalf of the staff. I think we have concurrence on the board. I believe that we can brown bag it just as good as the next person, and we'll be bringing our own, as far as sustenance to any meetings. I think that's important. We sometimes have 12 or 14-hour meetings, and so it's been important. Kleenex is important. I'm not sure.
I said no peanuts.
No peanuts. Okay. So So at any rate, I just wanted to make that clear. And one last pitch regarding the budget that I've been dying to make, and I think this is what I'm probably going to say in one of my board meetings regarding the budget or budget meetings, and that is I think that in the budget crisis, there is a tendency to retract some of our extracurricular activities within the district. For the beautiful singers that we had here just now with what they were wearing. Some of our classes with regard to, not classes, but rather programs with regard to journalism or debate or academic league or anything else. If any of those things touched your life when you were a student, I would hope that you would pause and make a consideration about making a donation at your school in support of some sort of extracurricular activity that helped in your life and helped you be a better person, because as we retrench, there is a tendency for some of those things to start to go away. So that's a conclusion of my comments, but please consider doing that. Those programs are important for our kids, and I think that it's important for their college application process. It's important for their integrity as citizens, and we shouldn't forget those. Thank you.
Dr. Evans, please.
Last night I was with a group of teachers and parents at Mira Mesa, as I mentioned before, and what they're doing is getting organized. And I think out of a crisis comes opportunity. When people really feel up against the wall with what's going on with their schools, it's very important for the parents and teachers and others to work together to solve some of the problems of this crisis. And one of the things that certainly came up in that meeting was about the budget, as we've been discussing here. And one of the things we're trying to do this year is basically do in October, November, and December what last year we were doing in January, February, and March, so that we'll be more prepared for next year. And one of the things I found in talking with parents and other people was it's really important for people to fully understand what we did last year in terms of having major cuts in the middle of the year and even huger cuts for this year that go well above $100 million. And people do not always realize, because we have kept the district together and have accomplished a lot, really how much we did. We took some pretty major cuts out of the central office and saved millions of dollars there. Some people do not realize that we started this school year with 1,000 less employees. That's pretty significant. About 600 less teachers, 400 or 500 other less employees. And this obviously has an effect on our schools. I mean, the most obvious one is larger class sizes in the lower grades. And people have to realize that everything ties in together. If we're cutting a program, we're cutting teachers. If we're cutting teachers, we're increasing class size. And we have to figure out how we can manage. We're going to be in a period of a couple of years of great austerity, and I think just as we're going over every item, every dollar that comes on the budget, just even before us tonight, even when we're talking about this membership, we have to ask ourselves, not just is this program, is this issue, is this position important, but the issue is, can we get by for the next 2 years without it? And that's why we've instituted this spending and hiring freeze and other things. As much money as we can save this year will save us from some of the more difficult decisions next year. So I think we need to get the information out very clearly, and that's why I'm really glad that there are groups such as the group in Mira Mesa, that the staff has been very, very willing to get out there and face the public and answer the very difficult questions, because we all have to be in this together to survive this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, and that is absolutely correct. Certainly, it's been a lot of interesting things going on both here locally and on the national level. And Mr. DeBeck and Mr. Koba both were in Portland with us for the Council of Great City Schools. The directors' meeting that happened on Saturday was a very interesting one, and as I alluded to earlier, there was a lot of conversation about the current leadership at the national level and how it is looking at education as a whole. And it does cause me great concern as to where we would be a few years from now. But the most important thing right now for us to focus on is San Diego. And as I came back, I did speak with some of the local entities, local stakeholders, about how we wrap our arms around San Diego and ensure that every child in San Diego is educated, regardless of how funding is allocated from the national level. The concerns stem from the fact that there is a movement to no longer have elected school boards, to the fact that making Title I, rather than allocating it by poverty, making it a competitive type of grant that districts have to apply for. And there is a concern what happens to the neediest of our children, and the concerns expressed both at CUBE Conference in Austin and at the Executive Conference there in Portland is that some of these items that are being proposed are not in the best interest of minority and poor kids of our nation. And it's our responsibility as board members to ensure that each and every child is educated. But I am very happy for what our staff here is doing locally. I think our movement, our work with the county for the H1N1 has been really phenomenal. I got a note back from the university because we did that green grant in like less than 24 hours. They called and we just pushed it right through and got it out. So the city is willing to work with us for many different viewpoints to ensure that we're able to educate all children. But the funding may not come from anywhere else except for here locally. As we held our meeting last night to talk about the San Diego State not being willing to include more local students, that comes back home to us as well. While we do have the students, we have to make sure that people are willing to invest in all of the students throughout our entire district. We're not quite sure how we can ensure that happens yet, but certainly that is the first and foremost goal that this board should be undertaking. When it comes to the budget, we would love to say that things will get better, but from the national level to the state level, it doesn't look that way. So that means that we have to come together and work more, and we're seeing that. We're seeing with the loss of personnel here in the district, the departments are talking more And we want that not just here, but throughout the entire unified school district. So you will be hearing us asking that more people come together and talk to ensure that how we're spending our money is the best possible way to spend our money. We do have less money, but it does not mean that we cannot fulfill our mission for educating each and every child. It just means that we can't do things the way we've been doing things. We have to think differently at each and every decision that we make. And that concludes my comments for this time, and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. At this time, we'll move down to FO2, which is really, I guess, just an informational report, but it's a report of gift to designated unified school district employees and board members to participate in the Chinese BRID delegation to China program. If there's any comments on this?
Sure.
Mr. DeBeck?
Well, first of all, the item just confuses me somewhat because both Catherine and I went last year, and all the costs came out of our pockets for the travel. And we did get support for the overseas travel from Hanban. If this one says that it's going to be that where the board is going to pay for the president, which I don't object to you going at all, that's a good idea, but it doesn't say that it's going to pay for the personnel from the district that are going. So that means that they're going to be out money to participate in something that I think they should get the same support that a board member gets. I know the times change. But last year, it was out-of-pocket expense. I chose to go. I know Catherine did too. And it was a worthwhile experience, and I encourage anyone to go. But it was at no cost to the district. Now this year, we're improving the participation by a few more people, but we're also paying money out of our budget and asking our employees that participate to pay when our board members are not. So I don't think that's fair. I'm going to leave it at that. If it's only just... I make a motion we approve it and pay for our employees, not that we pay for our board member only. Okay? And I don't hear a second, so that's the end of it.
It was not an action item. It was information. Any more comments? The next.
How is this not an action item?
It is.
It is
an action item. It is a budgetary amount of $835.
I'm just reading this. It says information, and I don't make a report here.
Action, comma, information. It's both.
It says action and information at the same time.
Okay, I didn't see it on my sheet here. I'm just reading from this. Okay.
I have a question in terms of this, the employees going on the trip. I obviously know Bernie Reinerson of District Relations. I guess I don't know who are the other staff members and what is their position or job in relation to this
Mary is in the language
trip
department.
to China.
Mary's and Terry are in the language department. The others are district staff. They're not directly connected with the language portion of it, but Hanban doesn't care. They want people who are lobbyists to support the concept of the language within the school district. So I'm not going to second guess if they've decided to accept these people as representatives of the district. I'm not going to second guess that. My statement would be, and the reason why I made the motion I did, is that I believe that everybody from the district should either get a subsidy or not.
Well, my issue had to do with if there are employees of the district, we are spending money in terms of they are getting a salary during the time that they're there. Now, the board member certainly doesn't get anything significant of a salary during the time the board member is gone, but the staff members are getting a salary during that time to be there rather than something else. So it's still a choice as far as how their time is spent. And so the two persons are in language acquisition, is that correct?
Yeah, two of them that I know of are connected with language, and the other two are, I'll call it upper echelon staff members. And I don't see any reason why we should cherry-pick the decision of Hanban. I only am saying that I believe we ought to treat everybody the same.
I would approve of this, but not with the expenditure of funds. I mean, I just don't.
I'll second that.
Are we taking action? I mean,
Yes, it's an action item, and I would approve this because I think people should go, but I just don't approve the expenditure of funds.
Well, is that? I'm assuming that was a motion.
I'm making that motion,
and I seconded it.
It's been motioned and seconded. It was not listed.
It
was not listed as an action item.
Moved and seconded
Right.
to approve
the trip.
Acceptance of the gift. I mean.
Acceptance of the gift.
But
not the money.
Not to spend money. Okay.
But not to spend the money.
So vote on that motion.
Okay, and that passes 3-2. Okay. Okay. The next item is the board discussion regarding December 2009 board meeting dates and times. We need a motion to...
Move approval. Board discussion and decision. We're having discussion.
A date
I thought
for us
we
to
had
have
discussed.
I will not be here for the December 8th meeting.
I've got these on my calendar, though.
December what? 18th?
8th.
So
Yeah, December 8th.
So currently what we've got scheduled is a December 1st meeting and a December 8th meeting, correct? And the December 1st meeting is the key to that meeting is we had anticipated that we would be reviewing our first interim financial report to the county.
That's correct.
But my understanding is that would be difficult for the staff to have in place. So I would propose then that we go forward with our December 8th meeting, but then our the meeting to approve our first interim should take place when President Jackson is back. And I think that could happen on the December 15th, the following Tuesday, or it could happen sometime. You get back on the 10th?
The 10th.
So we could do it on the 11th, which is a Friday.
Let's do it on the 15th.
We can do it on the 15th.
Let's do the first
It's
and the
fine.
15th.
Yeah,
No,
she's going to be tired by the time
the
she's back.
concern is that, the first, the staff will not be ready. The 15th is due on the 15th, so we have to have the meeting in the time prior to the 15th. I'll be back on the 10th, and the 11th is a Friday, which if there's any concerns with the report, the staff will have time to fix them, which is really cutting it kind of close.
So
too close for me. I don't know if I'm going. Fridays are bad. I can't promise Friday, but that's okay. You guys are majority. You can vote on it.
Yeah, I'm fine with Friday. I'm just worried about what kind of shape you're going to be in, but that's because that flight back is a killer.
I'll be fine.
So the idea would be basically the regular meeting, which is scheduled for the 8th, to postpone it to the 11th, correct? Would be the idea.
Or do we do it sooner? We could always do, well, you're going to be on the 2nd, right? December 2nd?
So we have our December 1st budget meeting, but then we have our regular meeting on the 8th, which would be postponed to the 11th.
I could do the 10th,
I can do
but I
whatever
can't do
works.
the 11th guaranteed. But
I won't be back until late on the 10th, like 8
okay.
p.m.
Well, then, all right. Well,
I can do whatever works. I'm flexible. It's
so
fine.
what happens if we don't file on time? Who gets penalized?
We all go
By
to
what?
We need to file on
Is it a slap on the wrist, or is it a
It's a big
major
deal.
penalty of
Yeah.
standing in the
Yeah.
corner, or how do we do this?
It's
no checks.
Evidence of malfeasance. No, we don't have to find out what the penalty is. We've got to vote for the 11th.
Okay, can we please get a motion?
Yeah, so I move that we reschedule the December 8th meeting to December 11th.
Seconded.
Okay, motion is seconded. Any more discussion?
No.
Please vote.
Okay.
Okay, so that passes 4-1. Okay. The next one is to designate our 2009.
No, that's only that one meeting. Is that the only meeting that we were voting
It's on December, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Item FO4 is our organizational meeting for 2009-10, which has to be held. If it's on the 11th with the regular board meeting, then it's okay. Okay? All right. The next one is a tentative agreement with the administrator. I mean, do I need to do anything else with that, Cheryl? Is that okay?
No, you're just formally telling everybody that your annual meeting will be held on the 11th.
But it says it's an action item on the agenda type.
I just want to clarify one thing. The time for that meeting on the 11th, are you going to do it at 5? Or what time?
No, I think we want to start in the morning.
You're not going to be alive in the morning. You're just not. Okay,
It's a Friday afternoon.
If it's a regular meeting,
if it's a regular
time.
meeting, it's going to be 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. That needs to be noted.
Right.
Yeah.
President Jackson won't even know what day it is anymore.
That's right.
Good luck, staff. No overtime.
Okay, F05, tentative agreement with the Administrative Association, ASD, for certificated supervisory unit regarding the principal's evaluation.
We didn't, hold on, designation of F04, we didn't take a vote, and it is designated as an action item?
And what we did was in item F03, we moved the December meeting from the 8th to the 11th, and that means organizational meeting, which would be on the 8th, would not be on the 11th.
Okay, as long as that's taken care of.
That is taken care of,
okay.
which is what I asked Cheryl to make sure I took care of.
All right, just
F05, I move.
F05 now, please. There's a motion.
No,
There's a second. And I just have a quick question. This is using the format that we had our consultants draft up. Hello, somebody? Okay, thank you. All right. Any more questions or comments? Please vote. Okay, the next item is F06. F06 is...
Approval.
Second.
Okay.
I have a question.
And I have a comment. So
Okay.
Dr. Evans, you first.
The question has to do, this is a zero budget item at this time, but I'm assuming that down the road there is a fiscal impact. So I would just like to understand what that is.
As Stu is coming forth, I'll give my comments as well. My understanding is that for this RFP, we only had 2 bidders, and with this action tonight, they get to go back with this particular one and negotiate the price. And I think that given the work that has to be done and the time that we have, we can go out and rebid this. This is to provide the support services to the ICOC, and the ICOC does need support, but I think that only having 2 bidders come forth, the question is, how do we advertise this, and was it advertised in a wide enough range for us to get people to actually bid on it?
President Jackson, members of the board, and Mr. Koba, let me begin by saying that the California Government Code does not require that services of this nature even be competitively solicited. However, we did create an RFP for the services. We advertised it 4 times in a newspaper of general circulation. Over 200 firms, organizations, companies, individuals were sent an email at about 1 a.m. on September the 21st advertising them of the RFP. There were also fax blasts that were sent out from our Prop S outreach office notifying vendors that this RFP was on the street. We did receive interest from 13 firms who downloaded the RFP. 2 proposals were received and evaluated by the panel that's stated in the agenda item. And based upon all this work and activity that was done, this recommendation is before you tonight.
I moved approval, didn't I?
Yeah, I seconded it.
Somebody did.
It seems that we have another additional item that just came in, because the one that we had here said no financial impact, and then the one that was in our brown folders, if you look at the brown folders, says that there is budgeted funds for a future agreement in the property management fund. And the question that I would ask is, will you come back to us before your final approval? Because I understand they're asking for $100 per hour to $150 per hour.
The recommendations that are before you are 2-step. One is to approve the firm to be selected to provide this service, and then to authorize the staff to negotiate an agreement with them that will come back to you at a future meeting for approval.
It says the term of the agreement will be negotiated. That's in the motion. The terms.
Well, the term
what you're doing is you're saying that you've selected an organization, and that you're going to, if we approve that, you're now then going to take time to negotiate with them the terms of the agreement.
That is correct.
And then we will have to approve that.
Within that field.
And then we have to approve that.
Of course.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. It passes 4-1. The next item was withdrawn.
Okay. Skipping over G.
G, I'm skipping at G, and G
We're skipping
says
it. Withdrawn by staff.
Withdrawn by staff. That's what I.
Trying to keep it, Ms. Jackson.
Okay, the next item is HO2. HO2 is remonitoring OE report, treatment of stakeholders. Over.
Thank you, President Jackson. This is a remonitoring report. I'd ask Bernie Reinerson to step up. We had previously discussed this in July, and Bernie has done additional work to go through the various components of the OE. We were noted as being non-compliant and wanted to update you on that matter.
Just very briefly, President Jackson, members of the board, this is OE3. In your subsequent discussions, you have changed this and it's being subsumed into, I believe it's OE4. When this was before you in July, there was one item that the board wanted remonitoring on, and that had to do with reasonably include people in decision making. So since that time, I think the superintendent, the interim superintendent, and staff have made an extraordinary effort to make sure that we include our labor groups and other stakeholders in decisions. And what I provided to you on page 8 of the report are some examples of the efforts that staff has made to include stakeholders early and often in the processes, both in several departments: human resources and legal services, auxiliary management, information technology, and also the work that we've done in district relations on a couple of specific projects that are underway or have been underway. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? Mr. Barrera, please.
Yeah, no, under the direction of Superintendent Koba, I think we've made tremendous progress just over the last couple of months on this issue. I still am concerned, though, that we have no mechanism to get feedback from stakeholders in this question of how is the district's treating stakeholders. So I still can't approve the notion that we're in compliance with this item until we come back with a process for including stakeholders in evaluating the district's performance and treatment of stakeholders. So. And I don't know, what the discussion has been among staff. We talked about this in July, developing a feedback mechanism, and I don't know if we've done anything there.
Mr. Burr, one of the things that we've talked about is doing a parent survey. And I believe you and I talked about that a little bit before the board meeting, to do an annual parent satisfaction survey. That's budgeted, and it's something that we can proceed with or not proceed with depending on what the board decides. That's one way to measure the district performance with a random sample of parents. We're prepared to go forward with that mechanism. We have also done some other things where we can, in the budget process, one of the things that you've seen, and I sent to you the board last week, is the feedback mechanism that we now have on the budget page, which is a blog where our stakeholders can provide directly to you comments. And so we're doing that on a monthly basis. I sent to you over the weekend the comments that we received just over the last 3 weeks regarding the budget, which was about more than 40 comments that came from individual people and some great suggestions about the budget. So we have that tool in place now that we didn't have before. We can continue those discussions.
I think it's good progress, but what I still need to see is an actual tool or a set of strategies, including an ongoing parent satisfaction survey. Not simply, the feedback around the budget is very important, but basically an ongoing tool that's going to allow us to get feedback from parents, employees, stakeholders, people from the community that have an interest in the district, to let us know how we're doing in the district's treatment of stakeholders.
One of the expectations that the board has changed has been this one. And so in OE4, which I'll be coming to you in January, where the new process that the board has set up is to what is your expectation, and we can discuss that probably at the January meeting related to OE4. And we'll come back to you in January with the new reorganized operational expectations. So at that time in January, what I'd like to do is come back to you with some specifics and then have the board give us that direction, yes, that's good or not, or additions. And then when we monitor OE4 next year, we'll have that built into the new OE4.
Fair enough. Yep. Okay.
Just a comment. One of the difficulties in this is that when we are saying in compliance and non in compliance, and I agree with what Mr. Barrera was saying about a lot more work that we need to do, but at the same time there has been a very radical shift at the top in terms of the culture, in terms of consulting with stakeholders, including them in decision making and so forth. So I think that on the one hand we want to really acknowledge and our appreciation of this big shift. At the same time we have a lot further to go. I suppose based on that, since we are going on an old operational expectation, I guess I would say that we could be in compliance, but that as of January, when we're updating and you're working on a revised operational expectation, we will revisit this.
Great, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'd have to chime in. I've been asking for this parent survey for long before you ever got here, Mr. Reinerson, and I think you've taken the ball further down the field, but we're still not there yet. But I think you've received the message that we like what's been done, but we want more.
Okay, please vote. Passes 5-0. The next item is HO3, Operation Expectation Remonitoring Report for Personnel Administration. Mr. Koba.
President Jackson, members of the board, this is another remonitoring, and I think there's a theme here. You'll notice we're just trying to catch up for the work plan for this year. So I'd like to have Tim Asvazador come talk about what he has done in the research for Personal Administration OE4.
President Jackson and board members, we came to you in November with OE4, which is Personnel Administration. You actually approved us to be in compliance with noted exceptions. There were 4 sections that are included in this update. At this time, I have to say that we continue to not be in compliance in those 4 areas, and I'll explain why for each of them. OE 4.9 through 4.12 are the 4 areas. 4.9 and 4.10 will require negotiating new contract language with our employee unions that we're actually working through some of that right now. You actually approved some language change for our Administrators Association tonight, so we're working on that area. OE11 would actually require significant financial resources to provide professional development opportunities for employees, so we're out of compliance in that area still. OE12 actually talks about, it bleeds over into what Mr. Barrera was talking about earlier. It's going to require broad-based collaboration district-wide to positively improve organizational culture throughout the district. And we're currently in HR working on developing surveys that would go out to our clients so that we can get feedback from them. So that's something that we're working on in HR.
Okay. Very good. Board, what's your pleasure?
I move to approve.
Okay.
Yeah. Second.
More comments? Please vote. Okay, next item is item HO4. We monitor, Operation Expectation Report on OE8, Board Communications.
Board Trustees, this is a brand new OE. We have not before reported on communications with the board, and working closely with the Aspen Group, with Cheryl, my staff, and a number of others, we put together this first-time discussion. I have, after some reflection on the information, determined that while we are in compliance with a number, there are 14 individual pieces. For some reasons, you decided to make this a lengthy one. There are a couple that I thought that we weren't in compliance, so I gave gave us partially compliant. And the two areas I want to point out is 8.1 and 8.8. 8.1 is the area where you're supposed to have an annual work plan, stay on track, stay on schedule, and quite frankly, I can't sit here and tell you we're on track. We will have completed the work plan by December, but for the vast preponderance of the year, we weren't on schedule. So that's why 8.1 is non-compliant. And then another one is 8.8. That one also has what I would consider a partial acceptance, but it deals with board members and the superintendent having clear swim lanes, roles, responsibilities, and I know we've been working at that. Coherent governance has been a part of that, but again, I couldn't sit here and tell you that we're perfectly in compliance. But I do think we've made steady progress in all the other 12 parts of this OE in terms of trying to report trends to you, anticipating high-profile actions, standard information to you, whether it be in a number of the reports that you see regularly or the emails, telephone calls, the meetings, and just think about the number of different engagements we've had in the last several months, starting with today in the charter school workshop, the inclusiveness of that through various other reports. So I think we're doing good here, but always room for improvement. I wanted to call out those two exceptions today.
Any other board member comments?
Yes, I think that considering this is a new operational expectation, you certainly captured the spirit of it and are taking it seriously. So I think we've got good progress on this, and I appreciate the effort and the sincerity in addressing this, and expect great things next year. So.
Okay. Yeah. This is complicated, but I have to say that 8.5 in this is the superintendent will ensure that board has adequate information from a variety of internal and external viewpoints to ensure informed board decisions. It's rated itself as being in compliance, and I'm not sure that I have been able to find any alternatives to staff recommendations from other sources that come to me as I looked at proposals. And so it says assure. So what I'm saying is that if there's a single staff recommendation and there is no dissent or no person with an interest in that debate, why do they come down here and talk to us? So that I would like to have some kind of report that anticipates potential objections to the proposals that we see or what the issues are that are relevant around those proposals. And a good example, and I don't want to beat the past to death, but there was a proposal that by a previous superintendent that one way to solve our problem was in special ed was to take teachers who were not special ed trained and then train them to be special ed. But the consequences of that meant that we would pay more for the special ed teachers than if we hired them directly from the marketplace. That was never represented to us. It was basically, you got to do it, but there were alternatives. And so to get the alternative point of view is important to me, and I think that even though it isn't within the board's policy, the issue should still be reported. Second guessing the board is a bad idea. But I think staff knows that anyway. But the other thing is, if you make an assumption that boards will never do something, and then you bring forth only those things that they would accept, that you're avoiding the opportunity for the public to hear what the alternatives were in the first place. And I'm just going to leave it there. I just believe that this issue of having alternatives and the consequences is not a part of what we get. Mr. Herrera, please. Here comes the rebuttal.
Yeah, just on one issue, the rebuttal is that I thought we had a very good and challenging conversation with the Latino Advisory Committee last week about the progress that the district is making in implementing policies that the board has passed around our A to G curriculum and around our biliteracy policy and the staff, was able to, give a sense at that meeting where we're at, but I think the members of the Latino Advisory Committee challenged that we're not moving ahead, quickly enough. And but I think that the fact is we created an environment that folks felt comfortable to challenge where we're at, and I think that that led to some follow through from the staff. So I've seen some alternative viewpoints come directly to the board that challenges the staff or challenges the progress of the district.
That's not the point. The point was anticipating those challenges is a part of the job that we're saying here. It says the superintendent will assure the board has adequate information, which means they should be able to anticipate that the Chicano Federation or the Association of Gifted Parents or somebody would have an objection to something that we're talking about. In other words, we should be forewarned of the issues that are involved, not just because we have an open forum. We could say we have adequate information because the public gets to say what they want to say. But many of them are not here, nor do they even know the item exists on the agenda unless somebody alerts them. So part of what we should do as part of our due diligence would be to have the superintendent anticipate public objections to the actions that we take.
Okay, I can't support that we are in compliance.
Yeah, that's where I'm talking to.
Well, but many times I ask questions, and the answers that I get back are quite frustrating. So for instance, I asked this question, and the answer I got back, it was a question about our Old Town program and the funding that we need. And so I asked the question, what was the total cost of the program? And because in the document that we're going to look at later, it said that we have to pay $8,000, which sounds okay. But my question was, what is the total cost of the program? The answer that I got back was that the Water Authority usually pays for this. This is the first year that we would have to pay $8,000. This serves 10,000 students, so many staff. It's an 8-week rotation program from September to May at $400 per session. I mean, as a board member, I don't think I should have to go somewhere and sit down and say, how many sessions did we have? My question was, what is the total cost of the program? And if we're picking up part of that cost, then what is our share? The next question that I asked, which was an easy question again, was we had some teachers go through some staff development, and I asked what teachers and what schools. I've been asking that question for 5 years on this board. The answer back was that this was done last fiscal year with 20 high school teachers of U.S. history, and these teachers in turn shared this with 3,000 students and the focus. That wasn't what I asked. I asked what schools. I don't know what schools these teachers are at. And the reason I ask these questions is not because I'm trying to be nitpicky. I believe in equal access. We have said here many times, and when the real answers come back, we see that only certain schools and certain teachers are getting this PD. And that's why I keep asking the question. So it is very difficult for me to sit here tonight and I get tired of reports that always look like everything is, the only bad thing in this report is that the board is stepping over the line. The board is micromanaging. That was the item that you pointed out, Mr. Koba. That's the only problem with board communications. And that is not the only problem with board communications. But anyway, the board's pleasure, this has been motioned, it has been seconded. We've had comments. Any other comments? If not, then please vote. That passes 3-2. The next item on the agenda is HO5, submission of the Urban Land Institute technical assistance. This is a property management. Mr. Koba.
Point of order. I want to talk on this.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, President Jackson. We recently had some discussions with the Urban Land Institute. They're a nonprofit organization, and asked them to come not only talk to staff but also to the excess surplus property committee about what they could do to review our portfolio, and in particular take a look at the complex here. What this proposal is analysis. They have a standard rate of $20,000 to come and use basically pro bono experts in real estate, land use, and the cost to the $20,000 is about processing the data and creating a report. I'd like to ask Drew Rollins to come forward and provide some additional information since he was chairing some of the meetings with the Surplus Property Committee.
Good evening, President Jackson and members of the board. As Mr. Koba said, the purpose of the item is to enter into an agreement with the Urban Land Institute to perform a review of the Eugene Brucker Education Center for the intent of potential reconstruction and redevelopment of the property. ULI is a nationwide nonprofit professional organization focusing on planning, land development, and real estate use issues. Their technical assistance panel service is provided to municipal and nonprofit agencies. As Mr. Koba mentioned, there's a $20,000 fee associated with their services. They have a chapter here in San Diego, 830 members strong, and they tap into those members to form this panel to review our property here. Diverse mix, and I think really an important component is that it's a local group. As we mentioned in the board item, we're looking for a recommendation on whether to retain the Ed Center and develop it to provide a more efficient and effective facility for the district and the community. Look at the reasonable land use options and limitations here. Recommend multiple uses. We also are requesting a strategy for community engagement because we realize that's an important factor in this process. So that's where we would go with this item.
We have one public speaker, and then we'll take board comments. Mr. Vanador? Jim Vanador? Oh, he's here. Okay, great.
He's just doing the smoke, Madam Chairman. Well, not really over. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members of the board. When this popped up, I made representations to the staff to the effect that we should not do this. Strong representations. The staff was not convinced, for reasons it believed good. And so as the chairman of the Access School Property Committee, I booked the item twice, once for discussion, once for action. I made representations to my committee, strong representations to the effect that this should not be done. The committee was not convinced, and rather than have a 4-1 vote, I voted with them 5-0, and so it went unanimous. I still have reservations about this, and so private citizen Jim Vonador is here to suggest a couple of things. One, if you're asking professionals to do pro bono work, I remind you that you get what you pay for. Second, the Urban Land Institute, whether as a national organization or a local organization, is a strongly pro-density, pro-development, anti-community organization. It does not love real estate for any other reason than its cash value. Sentimental value, recreational value, open space value, etc., do not register in ULI's index of good characteristics. So, doing this for $20,000 might actually bring something worthwhile, and frankly, I hope it does. I will not ask you to turn this down, but I will ask you to recognize when the report comes back, whence it comes, and from what mindset it was developed. That's what I ask you to do, and I believe, John, that that's what you want in this business about having adequate alternate viewpoints from the staff.
It's okay to stand alone. It's okay to be 4-1.
Thank you very much.
I can recommend it. Okay, Mr. DeBay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to go back to what I thought.
Was there a motion? I'm sorry.
There's no motion.
Okay,
if you want, I'll move
we
to
need to have a motion.
Well, I move not to do this.
Okay, is there a second for that? Okay.
Now I'd like to speak to the motion. I think there's something gone backwards here. the way I remember it's a legal process, by the way. We have to have a committee that recommends how to use surplus property. It isn't a committee that recommends what property is surplus. What we see here is that there has been a decision somehow made that this building that's bustling with people is surplus. That's the board's decision. The board decides what's surplus, and then they pass this off to, maybe staff recommends it. That's okay. I didn't see that recommendation except behind the scenes here using some other consultant. I didn't say here's a motion or recommends that staff says that we declare the Ed Center surplus. It's a recommendation that we engage somebody and we make the assumption that the Ed Center is surplus. I got to first have that. I got to get my head together on whether or not it is surplus. If it was declared surplus and it was vacant, then we decided to put the same people back in it, like we did in Mission Beach Elementary, or like we did in, there's other places that we might have, Cardinal Lane, we might have made surplus once. I don't remember all of it. The point I'm getting at is that what we should do is surplus property is property the district doesn't need. It is an obsolete property until the board decides that it's obsolete. Now, I can remember, and I have to sorry about this, but I have to go back to when a developer approached me long ago and saying, give us, DBAC advocate for us, but we'll take the whole Ed Center, we'll redevelop it, build you a whole new Ed Center, so long as we can have a store at the end down here, and it's going to have a liquor store. I said, no way, because it's connected with the school over here, and you can't have a liquor store. Okay? So the idea was it would be free, except we had to compromise on the rules about where liquor stores are. If we're going to redevelop, and then we had the Cardinal Lane, no, the one, what would we call it? Copley Land. The Copley Land was going to be our new Ed Center, and the idea was, we'll buy this land for $12 million, and we'll build a new Ed Center over there, and it'll be fine because it's in the center of the district, but nobody could get to it by public transportation, so as a result, none of the public that would come to testify would be able to come to testify at all. This location is the hub of San Diego's transportation. Okay? So now then, if we're going to declare our land surplus, then one of the plans might be, how do we redevelop this property? That's a discussion we can have without going through a CUSIV. That's without going through anyone else, because it's certainly not a consultant's job. It's a board's issue about what do we want to do. We've got hanging over our heads another piece of it, which I just saw the other day, which is our historic building across the way, which could very well have been incorporated into a master plan for this district's central office if that's what came forward. And an architectural firm at one time said they'd do it for me. They'd say, yeah, we can make that building look just like it is, build a master like it down here with modern internal affairs, and have you a super parking structure in back that nobody could see, and we'd give you an Ed Center that you'd be proud of. The question is, don't condemn a building until you ask the board to condemn it. So the reason why I'm not supporting this is it makes assumptions that I don't think this board has ever had a discussion about. I know Mr. Ackley, who's a former board member, wanted to raise it immediately, build a new facility, and probably would have done it if he had the power, but he didn't. The question is, would the board have done it then? I don't think so. Would the board do it now? I don't know so. But I think we got to have that discussion before we engage anybody, $20,000 or free or not, until we decide what we want to declare surplus. It says we've got 28 properties. This makes 29 if you add this building, and I don't think it's surplus yet.
Okay.
Mr. Cobo.
Can I provide a point of information? One of the documents that was placed at your desks was a list of the surplus properties, including this building.
Who voted for that?
I don't know, John.
I've been here 20 years and I never voted for it.
It was designated in 1984.
Yeah.
There was a large...
There's been excess properties.
Yeah.
When did things run out?
Okay. So
yeah, that's back in the ancient age. Okay. So
still in the
anything that happened in 1984,
my God,
we're bound to
something
do,
before
right?
John.
Okay.
No.
Fine.
Mrs. Nakamura, please.
Yeah. I think this does, that it is, I have a concern about it as well, and while we may want to maximize our excess property, I share Mr. DeBeck's concern about this particular property. In fact, last week, however, I encouraged you, Mr. Koba, to do something about the third floor because someone really should call the fire marshal, as far as I'm concerned, with the existence of what people are working in on the third floor. And I am going to say that out loud because it's a rabbit warren up there. I think that we do need to, the circumstances that we ask some of our people, not all of us, but some of our people to work in are unacceptable in this building. But I don't think that I want to redevelop this. I don't want to tear down these walls and put this somewhere in a landfill. I think that is not a very green solution to the values of this district. I do think good working conditions are appropriate, however, and I certainly have over and over again asked that we do right by one of the most historic buildings in San Diego, which is the former School of Education here, that fronts on Washington and El Cajon Boulevard, and is an atrocity to our fiscal stewardship of resources in this district. Every time you pass by it, people have got to ask, if this is how they treat this building, how are they treating the rest of it? But I don't think there are a lot of other, I would put $20,000 towards the field at Mission Bay High School.
Exactly.
And before I would, thank you, before I would do this. I mean, which, speaking of that, I was going to say that in my earlier comments, was that it was the ad hoc committee. $20,000 doesn't cover any of those, but ad hoc committee on Proposition S had a lot of recommendations about what should be done for the individual schools around here. I know that we did not discuss this particular property, and before staff puts something in front of us for $20,000 or $2, I think that we should probably have a discussion on the board that talks about what it is the board believes should be done with this property, because I really can't fill a landfill with this building. I mean, I have been approached numerous times by developers and other folks that have all kinds of wild ideas about what ought to be done, but it is the purview of this board, not anybody else.
Dr. Evans, please.
I think everybody has a lot of very valid points. Mine is basically spending money. The question, anything that comes before us, can we go the next 2 years without spending this money? So I support the motion to not fund this.
Very succinctly put.
Please vote. And the motion is to not support it.
Yeah.
So yes means you're not going to support it. That passes 5-0. The next item up is our consent agenda.
Mr. Varnador, don't let that go to your head. Okay. That was...
See, being 4-1 is not always bad. It's not always bad. Okay, anyway, we're going to move to the consent agenda. We have a number of speakers, and as board members, as we remember that the speakers will come up for a particular item. If you want to pull that item after they have finished speaking, when it's your turn to pull items, we will pull those items at that particular time. The speakers that we have coming up from the blue sheet is I-14, Mr. Vanador, I-27, Mike Goldwater, I-33, Leticia Munguia, I-50, Leticia Munguia.
I-50?
I-50.
50?
Yes.
Okay, I got one somewhere in between, but we'll get to those.
Okay. Those people can come up and speak first, and then we have a number of speakers on a couple of items. Let me get that group first. Mr. Vanador, here he comes. Okay. Mr. Goldwater, are you on deck? Where are you at?
This one, Mr. Vanador is which one?
He is I-14.
Okay.
President Jackson, ladies and gentlemen, you'll forgive me. I'm just being a pain in the neck here today.
You know I love you, man.
Thank you. I have 3 short questions. What exactly is over-identification?
Special ed.
Why would we want to eliminate it? And once it's eliminated, what takes its place? I'm speaking as an ordinary member of the person out here looking at that and wondering, what in the world is that all about?
Which number are you looking at?
I-14.
I-14.
So if you can tell me what it is, why we should want to eliminate it, and what takes its place once it's gone, that would help a lot. Thank you.
Okay, over-identification of special ed kids means you find kids that are really not qualified for the services that they're recommended for. In other words, you find a kid and you say he's not doing well in school, and we're now calling him special ed even though it's not any real physical or mental reason why he's not succeeding. There's a lot more technical than that, but I'm going to make it simple. And by over-identifying, you would pick out, let's say, an ethnic group, and you'd have a whole bunch of people, and you'd say, these kids aren't succeeding, and so we're going to call them special ed.
Got it.
That doesn't work.
I agree.
It's contrary to law, and it doesn't work. So the idea is to try and, excuse me, guys, to try and stop that practice of identifying kids mistakenly for educational services and putting them in the track of failure. Okay?
Thank you, John. And that obviates the other two questions. They're dead.
Grenada's nodding. I'm happy.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
She's
next
a pro.
up,
I'm not.
Michael Goldwater is here.
So
he didn't hear.
I'm sorry.
I'm still going to pull it later. We're going to do all the comments and then we'll pull what we want to pull. So Mike is not here. Okay, Leticia.
What number is this?
I-33. Sorry. Okay. And then so she'll get minutes for that. And then her next item is item 150.
I-33. She's one.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Leticia Munguia, CSCA labor rep for the Operations Support Services Bargaining Unit. First, I'm speaking on I-33, and I speak against it. I wanted to highlight a couple points on this particular agenda item. Through the leadership of Mr. Barrera and the school board, a subcommittee was established in early summer to try to do all the work we could collectively between labor and management in saving the warehouse. And this is a very close item to me because one of the things that really concerns me, first of all, it's the economic impact that it demonstrates, $6 million. But most importantly, I think that this is really inaccurate and untrue. Where it says impact to district staffing, it says none. But I got to let you know that the director of this department under procurement laid off 10 workers last year. We're down 10 members of staffing in this department. April 22nd of 2008, you laid off a combination of truck drivers, stock clerks, and senior stock clerks that have made it very disabling to perform the work. We're still there, and we want to continue to do the work. I want to let you know that a couple of things have been told to me about this particular contract. I pulled the master contract and the writer contract on this issue for Office Depot. And I find that under Brown Act and disclosure concerns, I bring forward to you a severe concern that the document that was available to the public failed to recognize and or acknowledge pricing. Maybe you were privileged to a different document. Because one of the biggest concerns at CSCA and on behalf of the union we brought forward to you is a cost analysis. President Jackson, in July, you assigned your chief fiscal officer, Mr. Macias, to do a cost analysis, which has not transpired. We have not been privileged. We had a subsequent conversation with staff at that level to help us address the components of what the law says. The Ed Code's very specific on what needs to happen for the cost analysis to occur. I understand the benefit of a rider and a master contract, but I got to tell you that what was given to the public fails to have an openness and transparency clause. The price units that were indicated in this document are not included. So I have to ask you, are you paying 10 times as much for a pencil than you would have our warehouse been fully stocked? Or even maybe not fully stocked. Let's start with the first 100 items that are most used in our district, like copy paper. I ask you, let's be creative in these hard economic times. We have staffing, and you have staff that want to do the work and stand ready. I just want your commitment to give your staff that direction. What I continue to see, this is $6 million that could be held in-house if we were doing our work right. So I ask that you give your staff direction and that for once, we actually get a document of proof that they've done this cost analysis. Because as a union, we're also taking a risk in that analysis. And I feel that as long as we're not coming to you, this isn't being addressed by the chief fiscal officer and their staff. I really am concerned about the truthful and honesty.
That was item I-33, and the next item is item
I don't remember. We don't talk about these.
That's right, until we get, yes, thank you.
Okay, Leticia Munguia, CSCA Labor Up, here to strongly support I-50. I'm here to strongly support it, and let me tell you why. This echoes the image, it echoes your voice, and echoes the principles of supporting your local staff. It talks about your commitment to ensuring we insource our work. I want to give high kudos and recognition to Superintendent Koba and Auxiliary Services Director Drew Rollins for their leadership and tenacity and work product in making sure that they provide the support to the Transportation Services Department, which is without a director, but is fully functional. Let me tell you, our people are on the road, the kids are getting to school, the kids are going back home, and our drivers are doing the work. And I just want to let you know one thing, that the leadership demonstrated by going forward and terminating this contract says volumes to our workers and their commitment when they show up to work for this district every morning at 5 o'clock, and some of them are still driving our kids home right now. So I want to let you know that CSCA strongly supports that we move away from these dependency on contractors and bring our work in-house, and I want to thank you for that leadership.
Thank you. The next item is I-05. We have some speakers. We have Lily McMillan and, this is Magdalena, I think, Twaski, maybe, and Janice Ligon.
I-05, huh?
I-05.
We're jumping around here. Okay.
I'm just going by the way the things come to me. It doesn't matter to me who goes, so somebody better go. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Ms. McMillan says I want to go first. I'll go first. Good evening, President Jackson, members of the board, Superintendent Koba. My name is Magdalena Tavashi. I'm the principal at Bayview Terrace Elementary in Pacific Beach. I am here to share some words of success with you regarding the Sorpus West program, which I am sure you are fully aware that it is an effective program regarding reading interventions for our children, our most vulnerable and struggling readers. I had the wonderful opportunity this summer to work with this program in our summer school at Bayview Terrace, where we serviced our children at Bayview Terrace as well as children in other surrounding areas, La Jolla Elementary, Bird Rock, Sequoia, Toller, and some of the other schools. I would like to share with you specifically that our students experienced great success in the following areas of literacy, which was wonderful to see. We saw a lot of increased improvement in listening comprehension and increased vocabulary with this program, increased phonemic awareness, letter-sound association, and decoding skills. More instant recognition and high-frequency words. Some very basic things, but it meant a lot to our children in summer school. And continuing with what they improved in were increased student passage reading. Fluency was really big. And related comprehension. They improved in their writing skills and overall, in organizational skills, and overall reading achievement. And another huge plus, which I'm very happy to say, that during the training for our teachers over the summer, it was outstanding. It was research-based. And for the first time in my career, I experienced a 100% buy-in from all teachers with this program. And I think that has a lot to say with our teachers. We have very bright teachers in our district, and I think we need to pay attention to this because they saw it, they learned about it, they implemented it, and throughout the 4 weeks, they were highly enthusiastic throughout the week. I walked into those classrooms and saw kids learning and teachers very happy in teaching this program. And lastly, after we completed the program over the summer, my teachers were after me to get together to meet and see how we could implement this program as an intervention program for our students at Bayview Terrace in the fall. And I want to say that we are doing that this fall and are continuing to see success with it. Let's see. Just again, that this program strongly supports all of our children, especially, as I mentioned, our vulnerable readers in the building blocks of reading instruction, in the phonemic awareness, decoding, fluency, vocabulary building, comprehension, and writing strategies. And what we've learned most of all from this program is that if we don't have strong building blocks in phonemic awareness, decoding, and fluency, we don't get to the deep levels of comprehension. And thank you very much. Next.
Good afternoon. Janice Ligon, Porter Elementary School. I also stand in front of you in support of the Sopris West materials. I'm a literacy resource teacher. One of the things we know about children is that if we don't catch them early, they suffer. The reading implications for their reading are long and severe. This program gets those kids head on. It allows for our children to enjoy reading at a rich and deeper level. Again, we mentioned this summer the program was used. We saw children make a difference. Sometimes we ask, can 4 weeks make a difference? I'm here to tell you, with Sopris West, the 4 weeks made a difference. Children were turned on to reading. Children began to have an I can do it attitude. Teachers understood how that data and how that research truly impacted children. In addition, for our teachers that might have been new to the craft, they all of a sudden had a clear directive of how to go about the business of teaching and learning children and reading. Students had accountability. They were able to check on their own progress. Students were able to show how they were succeeding. Students were able to then monitor that situation when they got home with their parents and when they had younger siblings to work with. This is one of the programs that the Title I, Special Ed, and the Curriculum Support Services in combination is in support of. Our children deserve better. President Jackson, I heard you say today that our mission is to educate each and every child. Sopris West gives us a chance to meet kids who, according to our own district's RTI model, at Tier 2 are some of our most vulnerable children. We don't want them to get to Tier 3. We don't want them to become on the special ed track. This program gives us an opportunity to impact them positively now. One of the things I want to say, the last thing I want to say, is this is not a program just for reading. This program impacts children across the content areas because they begin to see how to attack reading and to make it meaningful for the rest of their life. One of your agenda items deals with the CASE. We want our children to be able to read and excel in San Diego Unified School District.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Jackson, members of the board. My name is Lily McMillan. I live at 6550 Madrone Avenue, 92114, and presently I am the principal at Porter Elementary School, formerly principal at Hamilton Elementary School, where last summer we also piloted the Sopris West summer reading program. And I want to say that I don't want to call this particularly a program. Really, it's a matter of great teaching practices. That's really what it is. Put in, if you want to say, compiled into a program type setting, but it's nothing more than effective teaching practices. And I saw students that I had worked with for several years, and they just did not have a love for reading. They did not. They would not have I didn't see them with books in their hands. They became behavior problems. But as soon as we got this concept into our summer school program, and first and foremost our teachers as well as myself, we went to an 8-hour-long training, which was phenomenal, that the district offered to us. And the teachers, even myself, we couldn't wait to get back to the school after the training to plan for the summer school program. And my special ed personnel, they weren't privy to the information, but they found a way to get their hands on the material as well to work with their students during the summer sessions, and it went so well. The children that I saw over the year that were behavior problems were running around the school with books in their hands. They were excited. They were there every day. And one student in particular who gave Mrs. McMillan a run for her money, he really, I saw a smile on his face going home with his book in his hand, and he was really making an attempt to read. That was the exciting part about it. And even now with our training from last week with Anita Archer, who is phenomenal. My staff, instead of going through my regular staff meeting, I was sharing some of the information from the training. They wanted me to continue to share that information instead of going on with my agenda. And sure enough, today they are implementing, just from the handout from Anita's training, we are now implementing some of the strategy work for this program into our work. And they're commenting to me at how well that their children are moving forward just on I do, we do, you do. I do, we do, we do, we do, we do, now you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I saw a fourth body try to sneak up there. Okay, the next item that we have public speakers on is item I-12. We have Peaches Turner, Yasmin Bozen, and Tasha Williamson. Are those people here? Please come right ahead.
Hello, I'm Peaches Turner. I'm a concerned parent, and I'm here to support the San Ysidro Health Clinic to provide mobile and in-home health care services for Lincoln High School students.
And I'm here, Tasha Williamson. Yasmin couldn't be here, so I represent her as well. We want to support the San Ysidro Health Clinic. It is a free clinic that's coming to Lincoln High School. They're not asking for $1. They're providing services to the students that is well needed in that community. We're asking that those students get those services that are being provided for free. They have not said that. They have said that they would provide substantial services that parents in the community have said would be rewarding to their children and would also help them, because a lot of the community members work and are unable to take their kids, take the time off due to the economy to get those services outside. Some of them also don't have health care to provide to their children because of the economy as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, we'll start, and what items you want to pull, I'll go ahead and do mine while you guys are thinking about it. I'm going to pull item number I-07, I-14, and I-33. Okay. I-07, 14, 33. Mr. DeBeck, you ready?
I'm ready. I just want to talk around I-34.
I-34, okay. Mr. Barrera?
No, it's I-33.
Okay. Mrs. Nakamura?
No, I'll speak on my 33. But.
33. And Dr. Evans?
I-15 and I-32.
I-15 and I-32. And then, I'm sorry, I need to pull from the agenda per staff item I-52. Did you do that already? Okay, I-52. And that's pulled off the agenda per staff,
and
period.
Also, excuse me, also I-40.
Okay, so the items that I have pulled is I-07, 14, 15, 32, 33, 34, and 40.
Move approval of all the others.
Got a motion? Have a second, please?
Second.
Second. Been moved and seconded. We approve everything except for those I just mentioned. Please vote. That passes 5-0. We'll take these in order. The first one up I have is I-07. I-07 is Westad for quality teaching for English learners. And what I asked when I sent this question back was about the fact that in June of this year, we passed a language policy about our language programs, and so the question was really about the funding for this, and quite a bit of this funding is for it's Title III, which is, if I'm correct, it's Title III for second language students. Hello? Yes. Staff? Thank you. Okay, the concern that the concern that I have is, while this is important, I think the committees that we wanted to put together to ensure that we're doing our world language piece, what I don't want to have happen is the funds that we have for our language students shift off to someplace else. And part of what happens when I read this agenda item is that this is not only for PD for language, but it's for mathematics, language arts, and those types of things. And what I would like to see the staff do is, and so this is just my opinion, is make sure that you take this back. The question was asked last year of us, how are we going to do this world language program that we passed? And we said we had the funding because it was in one of our categorical funding. I don't want the categorical funding spent on something else, and without us having looked at this particular policy. And I know that since we just passed it, it's fairly new, and there haven't been many meetings on it. So I would think that we would want to wait until the staff has actually talked with us has actually worked on what it is that we wanted them to do with this program first, with this new policy on languages first. So that's my concern, that we're spending money out of for language programs, out of a language account that we want to use later for languages, and we're using it for something else.
And let me clarify a little bit. What the QTEL professional development will provide is professional development for secondary teachers to develop the skills and strategies so that they can effectively teach language learners in their content areas. So if they teach English language arts, ESL, math, social studies, science, what are the specific strategies and skills they need to effectively teach the language demands that are included within their discipline, within their content area. So that's what this is intended to do, and it is using Title III money, which must be used for English learners, and Title III money also, a portion of it must be used for professional development. So it's a very good match for that. And what you had referenced earlier, the world language programs, that is a broader perspective and a broader piece that includes a portion of English learner issues as well as programs for all students that aren't necessarily English learners. Again, Title III that this is earmarked for must be used specifically to support the achievement of English learners.
Okay, so my and certainly this is just my concerns that I'm sharing here. Part of the answer to the question that I asked also was prior work done by WestAd, whether it was QTEL. We had some QTEL work as well as some other work that was done with our teachers. And one of the concerns that I have also had is that we go into these programs and we don't monitor them or have any kind of feedback how successful the training was. And so I do have a concern because, again, here is another contract, and I'm not sure that it is addressing all the needs that this board has identified. I think it's continuing whatever programs were planned by someone, but not necessarily the board. That's my objection to it. But the board it's the board's pleasure at this particular time. Okay.
I move approval.
Yeah, I second.
Okay, the motion is seconded.
I have a question, just a comment. Part of the problem of this when we're presented this information about this is not seeing it in a bigger picture.
Exactly.
This is, a pie chart. This is the Title I funding. We agreed that certain things are going to be going in certain areas, and this is how it fits. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Title III. Because we approve things in a general sense, and then we get a specific one, and they say approve or not approve, and we can make an assumption that this just fits into the big picture. But it's just hard for me to judge other than the staff is using good judgment. So if I'm just saying for future reference, that might help.
Vote. That passes 4-1. The next item up is item I-14. And there I just have a question, and the question is, this is what Mr. Vanador spoke on, and certainly while I understand why we need to have this study, the question is that we just did a study in 2008 and 2009 that we just got the results for, and this is to do another one. And so what have we done in between to justify another study so quickly? So my concern is I'm not saying that we shouldn't do a study, but if we just did one in 2008, 2009, we have barely had an opportunity to get things in place, and already we're doing another study. So please.
Well, actually, this is a follow-up and a continuation of the study to monitor the progress. Today, I talked to Dr. Hernandez about a standard protocol that our teams would go through before children were actually qualified as emotionally disturbed, since that's one of the areas where we have over-identified. Dr. Hernandez has, done this in Los Angeles, and so that would be the kind of work that we would ask him to help us with, is to monitor, help us set up ways to deal with the issues that he's identified and that we've acknowledged, and then to be able to monitor that over the next couple of years to make sure we're making progress.
And I think your write-up is incorrect because your write-up is not, it says to conduct the study and to redo the study that we just did. And so if you're hiring him as a consultant to help you implement and set up stuff, I think that's a little bit different than redoing the studies. Or maybe I'm just not reading this correctly.
Right, because it says to assess the impact of the reforms on the policy and procedure.
Right.
And that's what you're saying we have done already.
Right. I mean,
So this is more of an implementation.
Well, the reform, as indicated by some of the stimulus proposals that we presented, about a month ago.
That's the whole point. You just presented them to us. How can he do a study on it?
Right. The study won't take place until later this year, and it's going to be a result of, first, what the interventions have created for the students in our district, whether or not over-identification has been lessened, whether we've effectively implemented some of the strategies that we've discussed with you, others that are coming before you later on this evening.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I appreciate the need. I don't have a problem with the need. What I'm worried about is, so we'll make the assumption we have over-identified. The question is, how do we know which of the kids were improperly identified, and what would be the protocol to determine that? Is that what this gentleman's about to do? In other words, here's I don't want to insult you guys, but here's 4 people that were identified. Now he goes in and does he judge the quality of whether they were identified properly or not? How does he have the expertise to undo over-identification? If he does, there's got to be some rubric or way he can look at that to say, well, it's not that you have 4 more than you should, or that you have 1 more than you should, but how do I know that he knows who are the over-identified kids and what their criteria, how did they get there? I mean, the fact, you acknowledge that we've over-identified. I'll even concede we have. The next question is, what do we do about it, and can he fix it? And if he can't, then I don't want to spend any money on it. And if he can, I want to know what he's going to do to fix it. Okay? I mean, because I'll concede we over-identified, so that's the problem. Now what's the solution?
But it sounds like the staff said that we just implemented some things a month ago, and I can't understand if you just did it a month ago. How is he going to assess the effectiveness of it if we're just starting it?
He's got to make a quality judgment on who got identified, because otherwise he's not going to be able to judge whether the identification was effective or not. So that means he's got to be the God that says this identification is valid and this identification is not. Therefore, the purity of your identification process is in question. And what policies have you established to make it pure? That's a pretty tough job, because there's some pretty expert people that have written up the IEPs and have identified these kids. So now he's going to be judging the quality of the IEPs? Well, how can he do it otherwise?
His initial study was completed and presented to the board over a month ago. What he did, and we all acknowledge that there are African American and Latino students who have been over-identified for special education. He came in and looked at the assessment practices. He looked at instruction. He looked at pre-referral issues as well, all of which he found some flaws. It's stated in his report quite clearly what those issues are. Our plan now is to address that in a very comprehensive way. So we're looking at assessment practices. We're working with psychologists. We're looking at instructional practices as well. We, as you can see from your agenda items, there are a number of supplemental programs that we've identified as being supportive for our students.
I want to get to the bottom. After he's through, are we going to have fewer kids identified?
That is definitely the hope. Once he can't do it alone, he can consult with us. We can talk with our staff to make sure that these interventions are implemented. And the hope And hopefully we can guarantee this at some point, but the hope is that over-identification is reduced. It certainly had that effect in other cities that he's worked in.
Well, there's a certain element of over-identification that involves coercion of parents, because all parents have to go along with the identification process. So then, if you've got, let's say, 4 people that have all been identified and by their parents who are in the IEP meetings, and they said, yeah, my son Barrera is going to be one of these people, now you're going to have to really go to that parent and say, wait a minute, we conned you into thinking Mr. Barrera needed these services when we really didn't have to do that. So the outcome of this is going to be basically saying that we didn't do a good job.
Well, it's a little more than
identification.
Yeah, it's a little more than that. We're going to have rubrics that will be implemented district-wide by our assessment teams. We're certainly going to continue working with our IEP teams to make sure that best practices are followed. We have a survey that's being put in place for parents once they're exiting the IEP to complete and indicate what type of support and services. We don't want parents to be glorified consent givers. We want them to be crucial and integral parts of this decision-making process.
I'm sorry, I don't want to beat this to death, but the thing that I've discovered over the past is that there are people whose kids aren't doing well.
Right.
And as soon as they see they're not doing well and they get called into an IEP, they are looking for that as a source of help, and so they're going to consent to the IEP because they see that as another way of helping their kid. But if we're over-identifying, what we're doing is we're playing into that hand, when in fact we could be telling a parent, you know what, your kid's problem isn't this, it's he's not working hard enough. Okay? And you're not supporting him. Okay? That's a tough way but that's what's going to happen. Okay? I don't mind. If this guy can help us, I'll vote for it, but I think this is a touchy ground to go into.
Any more board comments? Any more board comments?
I move approval.
We got a motion?
Second.
Second, please vote. I tell you, that passes 4-1. The next item is I-15.
What?
I-15. That wasn't mine. Somebody else.
I put that on there, and I'm always picking out one when it's up to contract, and this involves special education. So the issue of the extremely high expense we have, obviously, when we have to send students to non-public schools, and obviously that's not taken lightly. I'm just wondering if that's ever factored into the calculation, the phrase, there's money in the budget. In other words, we have a contract for up to $1,500,000, and if it's not, we have to work and find another solution. I don't know if you can comment on that.
Money in the budget.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, the question has to do with we approve, and in various areas, we approve contracts of up to a certain amount. And so, obviously, the understanding is you take each case individually and determine what sort of a placement the child needs. And we don't know if the total of the students in the district is going to come up to 700,000 or 7 million. But for some reason, we've arbitrarily chosen 1.5 million. And I just wonder if that figures into any of the calculation when you're approving people of how close we are to that 1.5 million. Do you understand?
Yes. Well, we have an overall budget of, I think it's about 12 million, a little over 12 million. For NPS and NPAs. What this
NPS and NPA?
I'm sorry, non-public schools and non-public agencies.
Okay.
So we watch overall that we are providing for more of our students and not having to have them served by outside agencies. Mm-hmm. So we really look at our own services so that we can prevent those costs. The reason why this is up is because we're shifting money around within that fund. We've had more students go to certain schools. We've had new schools open. Overall, we're not spending more money, and certainly we do watch that budget for students' sakes and stay within that budget, and we're on target to stay within that budget
So you said there was $12 million for NPS and NPA
Yes,
in the budget for 2009, 2010?
Right.
What has that been in previous years?
I would have to get that information for you.
Do you know if was it reduced for this year, or?
It's pretty consistent with what we've spent in past years on our non-public school students and non-public agency students.
So there hasn't been a trend. There hasn't been a trend upward then.
No.
But we asked that in all these documents that we do have how much you spent the previous year to help us understand, Mr. Koba. And so could you please make sure that as people bring these items forward, that was one of the requests that the board had made, so that we would have that information available. I'm sorry, Dr. Evans, you can
that's
continue.
all. No, I move to approve.
Okay, there's been a motion.
Second.
Okay, the motion is seconded, please.
Yeah, just for information, it's about to $17,000 a kid. And I'm voting yes.
Item number 32, please.
32.
I pulled this one, and just for a very, very brief comment, because I did ask the staff about this in terms of the question that Ms. Jackson just mentioned about previous year. We spent $2.1 million in September in these below 76,000, and I asked how much we spent last year, and I was pleased to find out in that same month last year, we spent $5.2 million. So there's something, whether it's just a quirk of when things were purchased or something, but September 2008 we spent 5.2, and September 2009 spent 2.1. To me, that suggests that the district is doing something right in terms of keeping the spending under control. So I move for approval.
Okay, got a motion? Second, please vote. Okay. The next item is I-33. Okay. This item certainly, and first of all, let me say to the contracting staff, I'm very happy about the first student contract. It's been used, and we sorted out about $6 million a year, and we're now down to zero.
95 buses too.
Thank you. I'm very, very, very pleased. And so, but with this item is something similar, and I do have concerns because we did ask for a cost analysis several months ago and have yet to see that cost analysis. I am also concerned because even though this is through LA, and LA has probably negotiated some prices, we still need to be very diligent about how we are getting our supplies and what we're doing with our workers. And I already think Mr. DeBeck was on the board when we first closed the warehouse, and at that time we had said that when you start outsourcing, people can when you outsource, they will inch their prices up, and you can't do anything because you really need the item. And in this case, we have to have these supplies. So therefore, even in an economic crisis, we hope to negotiate the price down, but we may not be able to. But I think the big issue here is that as a board, we did ask the staff to look at our warehouse, and we have maybe yet today, maybe I missed it in all my paperwork, see the cost analysis to see what it would cost if we were running our supply business ourselves. So I'm not going to support this evening, but I will. Other board members can speak or entertain this motion.
I'd like to
something.
Speak.
Mrs. Nakamura, please.
Yeah, Mr. Hamby, may I ask you a question? Now, you and I often have a debate about this, and you may not recall, but that regarding our teachers and whether or not they still get this discount. If they go to Office Depot and buy school supplies themselves, are they still eligible for a discount?
Yes, they are. There is a website that any school board employee with a school board internet email address can register their personal credit card. When they go to a store, then they ring up the sale at the cash register. At that time, when they swipe their personal credit card that has been entered into the Office Depot system, what happens is the price of that order is immediately recalculated to be the lower of either your contract price or the price of the items in the store at that time.
Now, this is only for academic items. They can't go there and buy popcorn, right, and get a discount on it.
This would be for items that would be on our contract here.
So they're for academic purposes. And my understanding is that discount is actually, it's a pretty significant discount, isn't it?
From personal experience, I would say yes. I mean, you realize that you get either the lower of the store price or the contract price on that item at the time of sale.
So this is a way that we can save money for our teachers as well. As we all know, teachers famously buy supplies for their classroom out of their own pocket, and this is one way that while we can't mitigate that as much as we would like, this is one way we can mitigate the cost of that, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I move approval.
I don't hear a second.
I guess I'm wondering, Ms. Jackson brought up about not getting an answer to the insourcing cost.
I asked a question. If I ask a question, there won't be an answer.
Okay, so how about if I ask it?
I think that would get an answer.
Can there be an answer, whether it's from a high level, or not necessarily every detail, but some general assessment?
This is a perfect example of the issue we raised about alternative opinions. Okay? The issue is, may I? I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
Dr. Evans.
Go ahead.
Sometimes I mean to. This time I just blurted it out. This saves the district money. How much is a question? Okay? And it is a policy question around employment of our employees. At one time we discovered, and the study needs to be done again perhaps, that by drop shipping, which is what this is really called in the real world, is by drop shipping you order something and it comes directly to the school without any intermediary. That means there's people put out of work. I'm sure that our union people know that. The truck drivers, the warehouse people, and we used to have a stock catalog of all the paper, all the pencils, all the stuff that we needed, and we'd order it. And what happened? You'd order it from the warehouse, they'd get it in a truck, they'd drive around the school district and drop it all off. We don't have comparative costs now. It should be done regularly. But the issue is, this says fiscal impact. The total cost will be the amount of the expenses, but what would it be if we didn't do it? That's not here. And see that, so you can make a judgment based on the emotional view, which I would certainly support, that we need to keep our employees working. In this case, these employees aren't working now.
We'd have to go out and hire them.
They might. I don't think they're going to be displaced because we're, under the present system, we're doing this already.
Exactly.
All right? The argument would be, are we going to expand it to the point where it impacts our workforce negatively? Or is it going to be that if we vote this down, that we're going to be rehiring a bunch of people? That really is an argument we need to have presented to us. That's what I'm saying. We need these alternative things to be presented, because the fiscal impact is only what it costs to do this, not what it costs not to do this.
Well, and I think there's also the impact, as I mentioned earlier, about teachers, but also about convenience for school.
Well, I'm not concerned about the cost to our teachers of the materials, although that's certainly important to them. But to me, the cost is how much does it cost the district in a time of fiscal crisis.
Okay.
That's important. I'm supporting the motion.
Okay, Dr. Evans.
Because I don't know the difference.
Okay, Mr. Barrera, please.
Okay, so there seems to be a motion, and did you just second it?
I seconded it so we could talk and vote.
Okay, so I'm going to vote against the motion, but what I would propose that we do is we simply pull this item until we have a cost analysis, take a look at that, and then bring it back and make a decision. Is that something that we can do?
Yes, Mr. Brewer, I think we can pull. I do know that we began to do the analysis, but because of competing issues with budget reduction analysis, we pulled people from this analysis to go forward to do other things with the BRACE program. It was a limitation on analysis and time to do it.
Okay.
what the high end on this would be, you need to have both the high end and the low end of what the cost to the district would be.
Oh, and I think we should ask the schools to weigh in on how they actually feel about this, because they're the people that are receiving these supplies.
I agree.
And I know there are some strong feelings out there about it.
Okay. Well, so the motion is to pass it. The option
Yes, the motion is
not to pass it and to get a study.
So
may I don't know that I heard the right, or what I thought would hear. Does this mean that if we vote no on this, that we will not be using purchase agreements?
Yes.
Or is this a purchase agreement that's going to go on until we vote no on it? Because I think we already have an operational agreement that we will be doing already.
This
and
takes
that this
effect
is
in
extending
January
it beyond
2010.
its current length of time. Am I wrong or right?
I think before, excuse me, President Jackson, maybe you want to have a comment from the contracting officer before we take the final vote. But I think Mr. DeBeck was correct. But a delay, a pull of this agreement, Mr. Hamby, does this impact the immediate next 30, 60 days?
How's LA going to feel about this?
The agreement is effective on January 1st, so it doesn't start till January.
Yeah.
The board does have a contract in place through December 31st, 2009 with Office Depot for these items.
So what I heard was the direction of the board is that we need to do a cost analysis immediately in order to make a good decision about the extension, renewal, or whatever of this contract or warehouse configuration.
But we have 30 days, and we have two meetings.
We have one
between now and
meeting.
then.
Exactly.
Well, the December 11th meeting, we could take it up.
They can't do it.
Bill Stover was working on that and said she was pulled to the price effort, so I'll follow up with him tomorrow to see where he's at with that analysis, but they had started it.
Mr. Barrera, are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a motion to approve this item. Any more comments? If not, please vote. And the motion fails 3-2. Okay.
With the understanding that they will come.
Bring it back very quickly.
Yeah, so I move that we hold this item tonight, bring it back at a point that we've done the cost analysis.
Done.
Yeah.
I second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please vote. That passes 5-0. Okay. Next item is item 34.
Okay. I was going to use this, and I still am going to use it to segue into an issue. This is an agreement with Tech Depot through Fairfax, Virginia, which is a long way off, to buy technology products cheaper than we could do it ourselves. I'll concede that. And I'm not even in disagreement with it, but I'm going to say something that I think is real important. We keep buying more and more and more technology, and we have fewer and fewer, or at least a level amount, of people to keep it running. That's a significant problem for me. We just got through hearing about a principal couldn't get their computer working, and then we had to send out emergency people to do this. What happens if all of a sudden all this stuff doesn't work? We have got a major problem. You cannot, in my opinion, you cannot keep expanding your technology base without expanding the support services you give for that base.
Noted.
And so here we go. We're going to buy more stuff. And the thing that's really bothered me was I found out we can't use Prop S to maintain stuff we bought, although it has in it maintenance of other things. I don't quite understand that, but if it's prohibited, then it's going to be general fund impact to do this stuff. But for me, I thought that Prop S had in it maintenance of district stuff. And Markey, you want to tell me about that? Or is it just because it's technology stuff you can't maintain it? Or is it that it wasn't listed in the original Prop S proposition?
Well, typically operations include maintenance of these equipments, and that's prohibited in the bond. We can purchase, we can install, but we can't maintain. There's a very distinct separation between.
You can maintain roofs though and boilers, but you can't maintain.
Well, they would call that a repair action or deferred maintenance action.
Well, what about a broken server? Is that a deferred maintenance action?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
So be it. I'm just still worried about it. I move approval of this item, but I'm still raised the concern about not having ongoing budget support for the operations of our high-tech equipment. Got it needs a second.
That needs it need a second on that, but Mr. Colbert so noted about the support for the equipment that we're getting, for the technology. It's not in his memo to us, so you need to follow up on that. It's motion and second for this particular item. Second, please vote. The next item is 40, please.
Okay. I'm not sure on this one because it's through Major Repair and Replacement Fund, and I don't know exactly excuse me, how that fund works.
43?
40. Okay. But there's $450,000, and my question is always, can this wait a year or two?
Okay.
This is for the bathrooms, right?
Yeah, but Terrazzo is special. Mm-hmm. It takes special technology. But if it's not working, you've got a whole lot of leaks, and there's sub-issues that are going to be very expensive to deal with. So it's like having a tile floor that leaks. You end up with not just replacing the tile, but the subfloor and the floor below that and a lot of other stuff. So
so you're saying it can't wait?
I don't think so.
I mean, as opposed to paint or something like that.
What does Mr. Rowland say?
I've been wrong.
Mr. Trebek is right. If you look here, this is Terrazzo that I'm standing on. It is a very specialty class of work that goes on in repair, so contracting is the right way to go with it. You also see it, if you think about the average age of our facilities is 42 years old. You have this in nearly every restroom in our district. Mm-hmm. What we do a lot is either damage and graffiti repair, where we're actually grinding down the terrazzo and resealing it. We're replacing partitions, or what happens very often is a plumbing repair, where we have to get into the wall, cut through the terrazzo to make the plumbing repair, and then on the way back out, obviously, we have to repair the terrazzo. So that's our typical mode of operations and how we get there. We certainly try very hard to manage our maintenance dollars, but this, I believe, is one tool we ought to have in our toolbox.
Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't a purely aesthetic issue, and I move to approve.
Second.
Please vote. That concludes our consent agenda. Do we have any more public testimony forms? Do.
All except the area where the
Jill Gora, did she come in? Okay. Yasmin Bozen. Yasmin, she come in? I thought I saw her come in. She come in and went back out again. And Michael Goldwater. I know she just came in a few minutes ago.
Before Ms. Ward resets the timer, I was called earlier this evening. My wife was in the hospital, and I had to take care of business. And if anybody knows me, when I'm assigned to do something, I do it. But I had something else pending, so I apologize. Michael Water, 4350 Mount Everest Boulevard, San Diego, 92117. I'd like to talk tonight on a very important subject that Mr. Barrera was on television talking about the San Diego State, the students not being able to go to San Diego State in certain areas. And my concern is, Mr. Barrera and the rest of the board, before you start dealing with San Diego State and our students not being able to go on in schooling, our mantra is, the San Diego Unified School District's mantra is, study hard, get your high school diploma, and go to college, and you'll be able to make a go in this life. Well, before we worry about San Diego State, we ought to clean up things in our own backyard. There was a job. The job was the rubbish and recycling. That job was announced not once but twice. It was re-announced because of a need to have, instead of 5 applicants, they needed 10 applicants from the archaic concept of the old superintendent, Alan Burson. Okay? Well, that was a good position to have internal. It was strictly an internal position where individuals who work for the district in good standing over 1 year can apply for it. Then it was advertised outside, and the concept I spoke to the job analyst was there wasn't enough qualified people. Well, they did get a qualified person, a person who was terminated from the city of San Diego with 20 years experience. Other people who were internal in the San Diego Unified with 10 years experience. Let me see. 10 years experience, 20 years experience. That means that both parties had experience. But the district decided to go outside the district, hire a new person who unfortunately was unemployed by the city of San Diego, and spend an additional $10,000 to $11,000 in benefits that were already being paid to current employees that were qualified, interviewed, and qualified for the position. So the concept is that for San Diego State not to accept students, we should start accepting people who work for the district who are qualified, take care of our own. So before we start yapping about San Diego State not accepting our students, how about accepting our own employees that are qualified instead of shunning our own employees? Let's worry about our mantra for San Diego Unified School District employees. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of things. In our brown folders where we had our questions answered from the staff, behind that is the memorandum from Mr. Lagasse concerning IT, because I don't know, I didn't see it prior to now, so I just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to see that and read that. The board is returning to closed session. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll return to closed session. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight.